Okay, hello, everyone. This is Dr. Garrett Smith, also known as the Nutrition Detective around these here YouTube parts, and today we are going to go over the giant steaming pile of BS psyop that is measles. And I decided to push the infertility psyop episodes down the way because measles is, timely and it's happening right now. So I wanted to go over this so you guys could share it with the people who need to see it. And I wanted to do it for my edification to go through it so I could see what it's all about. Now, I want to tell you before we get started, we're going to hit on a lot of things, the viruses as nonsense things, the vaccine as making things worse, the strange endorsements of vitamin A by the current administration, which aligns with Bill Gates and the World Health Organization and all these things. So, this is going to be kind of, it's in line with what we do. Oh, and other things like copper toxicity's connection to measles and arsenic's connection and all these things that are interesting. I want to say at the start, people are going to want more research than I have. And the funny thing I was noticing as I was going through this is there's not as much research as you would think. So just to begin with, as I'm going to touch on, these skin diseases, these childhood fever diseases, these chickenpox, measles, the stuff coming out of the skin, these are detox processes. They are childhood detox processes. And as we're going to go over in the research, when children have these detox events, they have less disease as they get older. That's what makes you realize it's not some attack by a phony virus. It's a detox event. Why does it only happen in childhood? Or why does it happen in childhood and it's relatively safe, but when it happens in adults, it's pretty bad? I can't answer that other than adults are more toxic. And they probably suppress the childhood reaction and it's coming out later, like chickenpox. So let's head into it. First, we're going to go through, I had a couple testimonials that came up and I wanted to hit on those. So we'll do that first. So Joe, I forgot to share before we started. Here we go. Let me see testimonials. There we are. Okay. So let me make this a little bigger. So our first testimonial, this was from on our YouTube channel, so it's not like it's hidden from the public. This was just another Mainer. Let me read this for you. Dr. Smith, I just thought of something that potassium seems to work with, at least in my case. I've had asthma all my life. I was a sickly child with pneumonia 3 to 7 times a year until the age of 10, including hospitalization. It went away in my 20s to 30s, but as I got older, it returned more frequently. If I had a chest cold, my asthma would last for about a year after that cold. When I drink coffee, I also have a need to constantly clear my throat. Since on low A for about a year and the increase of minerals, my asthma has almost gone away with the exception of an occasional coffee and some evening or hay triggers, which is seldom now. I have farm critters. Yes, you breathe a lot of stuff when you go outside. However, I will either eat a banana or take some potassium and it goes away. Every time. I've been noticing this for the last several months after being hungry before bed and eating a banana. LOL. It is humorous when you figure these things out, right? So how am I going to connect this to what we do? Asthma, one of the biggest things, Matt Stone, who introduced me to vitamin A toxicity. Matt Stone introduced me through a Facebook post and his blog post to Grant Generoux's work. And then I read about Grant Generoux's work, and Matt Stone, who is very, even more contrarian than I am, almost contrarian to the point of it's too much. He had asthma, and he would say that if he eats any vitamin A, like if he had dairy or he had anything that had significant amount of vitamin A in it, his asthma would come up for 3 days because he got it gone with the low vitamin A diet. But if he ate something high in vitamin A, his asthma would come back, and it took him 3 days of avoiding vitamin A to get the asthma gone. So, and I've been over lung stuff with vitamin A before. And one of the things I can tell you is if you have lung stuff, you have vitamin A toxicity most likely. And what does vitamin A affect? It affects your potassium channels. And we went over this. This was on the potassium live stream. So if you haven't watched the potassium live stream, you should go watch that. Okay. But two of the things, if you have lung stuff that you can do to help that right away, as this gentleman said right here, magnesium and potassium. Those are the two. Topical magnesium. Again, you might want to watch my topical magnesium live stream if you haven't watched that one. Then watch the potassium live stream. But those two things can help quickly. Okay. Those two things. So we do, when he was talking about the minerals, it could be the magnesium he's talking about. It could be the potassium, but also the long-term minerals that we work with: zinc, selenium, molybdenum. They're all in the keystone minerals if you want a one pill thing, but that's not as customizable. And then you can also get our individual pills. We have zinc pills, we have selenium pills. And I can tell you that the molybdenum pills will be coming out very soon. Don't email Julie. So that's that. So dairy, for those of you, dairy is like Asthma City. And it's been shown that kids who are exposed to more vitamin A, once they're born, more vitamin A foods, stuff like that, they get allergies more. And asthma is kind of just an evolution of allergies. Okay. So if you had a chest cold, which is a bile dump, right? Asthma would last for about a year after that cold. Post-influenza syndrome, anybody? Or also what they call long COVID. Like long COVID is not a new thing. It used to be called post-influenza syndrome. It's not just from the pokies, okay? This is a bile dump, and the bile is leaking, and his body didn't catch up and fix it for about a year. When he drinks coffee, he has to constantly clear his throat. Caffeine depletes potassium. I've gone over this research probably on this show before. If not, I did on Twitter. So what do we do? What are most people doing out there that they think is healthy that depletes potassium or causes potassium deficiency symptoms? Vitamin A toxicity, vitamin D supplements, copper toxicity, and caffeine. So we have a caffeine here triggering, breathing, throat clearing stuff. Okay. Asthma's almost gone with the exception of an occasional coffee, potassium depletion, and then or breathing stuff outside, that can still happen. I mean, when you're breathing stuff in the air, it doesn't always mean you're allergic to it. It may just mean it's a toxicity reaction, or you're just breathing stuff, So, eats a banana, takes some potassium, and it goes away. Okay, so that's this is good pattern noticing by this gentleman. So now let's go on the second one. This was posted on the network. So for those of you who are in the Love Your Liver network and you want to look for this one, you can, but I don't go over people's names unless they put it publicly. Here we go. I expect, like many on this network, I have lingering doubts and questions about this program, and I have to keep reminding myself that I didn't imagine the improvements I have had since I started just over a month ago and that I'm still early in this process. But then today I was going through some old documents and found a blood test from 2022. The reference range for vitamin A was 0.8 to 2.90, and my measurement was 4.73. That's a lot. I'll do the conversion here in a second. They didn't even mention it when going through the tests, and at the time I think I just shrugged it off as one of those vitamins you can't get too much of, LOL. Except I was going to the doctor for bone pain, one of the classic symptoms of vitamin A toxicity. And there's my serum vitamin A at nearly double the high end of the normal range. Doctors, man, they are so clueless. Anyway, this is just another piece of evidence that I'm on the right track. So from what I recall, a 0.7 on the I think it's micromole units. It's in molar units. A 0.7 is about a 20. Actually, let me go do this. Let's do on unitslab.com. Retinol. I'll switch the tab in a second, Joe. Let's do this. Okay. So you can see it now. So we have 4.73. 135. Let me make it a little bigger. 4.73 is 135. 135.5. This actually may be one of the highest ones I have ever come across. There was a European gentleman who contacted me. He was at 120. He had terrible, terrible anxiety, and he was doing a lot better on a low vitamin A diet. And he had already brought it down. Actually, the gentleman who if you guys remember, I talk about him a lot. When he started, he was at a 25. And he was in pain like all the time, multiple pain meds. He's just suffering. He did the low vitamin A diet, and he was taking some zinc and some other stuff. In 3 months, his vitamin A went up to a 52. It more than doubled. And then after another 3 months, it had gone up to 125. So it more than doubled again. This is why the only way the vitamin A blood test guarantees that you have vitamin A toxicity is when it's high. Now, don't misinterpret that. What it means is that this is all over the research. You can have vitamin A toxicity in your tissues, in your liver, if your serum retinol, your blood vitamin A, is in the normal range, or if it's even low. Like I just showed you, that 0.7 or 20, this first gentleman was at 25, so he was on the low end of the blood vitamin A. And after doing 6 months of a low vitamin A diet, it had quadrupled, basically, and actually quintupled. It had gone up by 5 times, 25 to 125. So the only way you guarantee you have vitamin A toxicity is if your blood test is high. That's all it can tell you. However, you can be absolutely vitamin A toxic underneath it all. I've shown this in a case study in the literature. I have had a client who did it. You can be low vitamin A or normal vitamin A and still be absolutely, completely toxic in your liver. Okay? This is very important to know. So that's the testimonials. We're done with that. So I'm going to close that one out. Now, Joe, I don't know if you shared this, but let me share it. These are the references we're going to go through. Okay, so we got all this fun stuff to go through. It's only 5 pages. So I'm going to hit on some of these. I'm not going to go into detail because if you find this link in the live chat, you have all the links. And if you want to go read more, this is going to be a barn burner. I hope I get to the inner circle on time today, because we got a lot to go through. I didn't realize I hadn't scrolled through it in this manner to see that it was actually 5 pages of normal spaced stuff. So I'm going to have to be opening up each one of these as we go. So let me close this one. So this is, I want this one first. This is March 4th. This is March 8th. Okay, so here we go. Okay. Let me make this a little bigger. Now, first, I'm going to give credit to all of the people who I'm quoting here because they're putting it out there, making it a little simpler for me to show, so I don't have to go through all the data for you, because this is Anthony Colpo. If you want to subscribe to a really useful Substack, Anthony Colpo, I highly recommend it. Okay? So here's the title: The Fake Child Defense Anti-Vaxxer Strikes Again. RFK Jr. now recommends vaccination against measles. So again, we are having the current Maha administration aligning with Bill Gates, aligning with WHO, aligning with the CDC on both vitamin A and vaccines. So again, MMR vaccine is crucial to avoiding potentially deadly disease. Now, what I want to tell you is what this vaccine is doing is it's shutting down this childhood detox process. So you're not detoxing it through the skin, so it stays in you. So whatever the toxins are that cause a measles-like rash, if you suppress it, you create more disease. And then there's also the toxins in the shots. Okay, so let me go down here because he analyzes the. Let me see if this was the one I decided to use. You know all the charts about when the jabs showed up versus when the disease went down. Actually, let me do this. Oh yeah, this is what we'll hit. This is the thing we'll hit on in this one, and then we'll go to the next one. Okay, I want to make this go away. How do I make it go away? Okay, so this was the last thing in this. So you can read those Substacks, or you can get subscribed to his newsletter. His magnificent readers have alerted me to an interview Bobby Jr. did with John Stossel in August of last year. Stossel asks, quote, if your kids were young now, would you give them the measles, the mumps vaccine? RFK Jr. says the Bobster replies with an emphatic no. And now he's recommending it. Not only for those of you who know, these are about the narrowest set eyes I've ever seen. It's the old do as I say, not as I do mentality that is pervasive among the parasite class. So now let's go into the next one. Let me share. Oh, I killed the tab. I killed the share. Sorry, Joe. Let me go into here and share. That's not the one I want. So we'll go here. Yeah, I got to remember to not kill the tabs. Okay. So here we go, Joe. So this is where Anthony Colpo goes over. I'm going to show you the links to the papers if you want them. But he goes over, he analyzes the statistics in it. Oh, yeah, Jack, yes. Have I seen the, quote, wife? Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed the wide set eyes on the wife, too. So let's go down here. Let's go find this. Oh, yeah, don't you love these cute pictures of viruses that don't ever match? Anyway, I'm not here to spend too much time on the viruses are just a scam thing. Viruses are an indicator of toxicity. That's it. That's it. Where is the part that I wanted? I don't want, oh my gosh, come on. Okay, let me find, where's the part I wanted? I swear I marked this. Here it was. Here it is. Okay. Let me just highlight the part that we want. And we'll start. Okay. So Anthony found 2 trials. I have been able to locate a mere 2 trials in which vaccines supposedly containing the measles virus were compared to an inert placebo. As in, I don't know if you know this, but in vaccine studies, they give injections of the virus containing one. And then they also, then the other kids get everything else that's in the shot, all the toxins, the adjuvants, all that stuff, minus the virus. That's not science. That's not an inert placebo. So he wanted inert placebo. Okay. The first was an Israeli randomized controlled trial published in 1968 in which kids were given saline placebo, so salt water, were compared to 4 groups of youngsters receiving vaccines containing what were allegedly different strains of the measles virus. So let me go get that just so you can see it. Let me do... This is one of them. So I'm just going to show them here so you guys can... Oh, this is the one. Okay, so this paper, this is the paper that he's talking about. A comparative study of 4 live measles vaccines in Israel. Okay, here's the PubMed ID if you want to look it up. So let's head into this now. Okay. The kids given the saline placebo enjoyed the best outcomes by far. Wait, that's not what's supposed to happen. Febrile, as in fever reactions of over 37.5 degrees Celsius after getting jabbed. Oh, sorry, I didn't share it. Here we are. Feverish reactions of over 37.5 degrees Celsius after the jab were highest in the Enders-Edmonton strain vaccine group, 86.4%, and lowest in the placebo group. The incidence of rash, a symptom of measles, ranged from 20.2% to 36.9% among the vaccinated children. In the placebo group, the saline injection, rash was recorded in only 11.9% of the subjects. The placebo-injected kids also had the lowest rates of rhinitis, like runny nose, cough, conjunctivitis, that's eye irritation, and pharyngitis, tonsillitis, that's sore throat and inflamed tonsils. One child in each of the vaccine groups had to be hospitalized with complications after the jab. None of the placebo-injected kids required hospitalization. That's real jab research, folks. So now let's go to the second one. Let me pull up the other one. This is the, so Joe, if you want to show this one, this is the other saline placebo paper. Measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine at age 6 months and hospitalization for infection before age 12 months. Randomized controlled trial. Hospitalization for infection. Wow, that doesn't sound good. Now, let me go back to his. Here we go. The second placebo-controlled project was the Danish MMR trial published in June 2023. Over 6,500 healthy infants were randomly assigned to either the MMR VaxPro vaccine or sterile water placebo at age 5 to 7 months. MMR VaxPro allegedly contains strains of the non-existent measles, mumps, and rubella viruses. Rather than administer separate vaccines for these conditions, it is now U.S. practice to inject a trifecta of this porqueria all at once. The follow-up period spanned from the date of randomization to age 12 months. No deaths occurred in either group during the trial. Well, that's good. There was no difference in the rate of hospitalizations for infection between the MMR vaccine and the placebo groups. Infants in the MMR vaccine group, however, were more likely to require hospitalizations lasting 12 or more hours. The MMR group also showed a 1.23 hazard ratio for rehospitalizations more than 7 days after the previous discharge. Hardly what anyone would call a superior result for the vaccine. The Danish authors also conducted a meta-analysis of previous measles vaccine trials, which were of dubious quality and control. Of course, they found a conclusive, significant, harmful effect of the high-titer measles vaccine on mortality. That's risk of death. They found a conclusive, significant, harmful effect of the high-titer, that's the high-strength measles vaccine on risk of death. The effect was most pronounced for girls. The standard titer measles vaccine showed no mortality advantage whatsoever. So it did not reduce the risk of death whatsoever, nor did it have any effect on measles morbidity. That's like health issues after it. This is why you never hear vaccine shills boasting about the mass of placebo-controlled evidence supporting these concoctions. There is none. Okay? So it doesn't work. It works the opposite. These are two studies that you can go and show measles people and show that the vaccine is actually worse than not getting it. Okay? So again, I don't know Anthony Colpo. I just wanted to give him a shout out. I think he does great work. He's a little angry in his work. He does a bit of, character assassination because he's very passionate about what he does, and he really comes after people hard. Can turn some people off, but he does great work. So wanted to say that. Okay, so let me open up the new ones. So we're here under, oh my gosh. Let me get rid of these so I don't confuse anything. And then I'm just going to be opening up these like as fast as I can. Yeah, I should have had these open before. Whatever. I have so many tabs open on my computer. I just decided to, I didn't have time to get them all open this morning. Okay. So, so I wanted me to spell his name. So it is Anthony. I'll do it in the chat. Anthony Colpo. And you can always go back and look at the screen. So, okay. So we're just going to go through these. I'll start on this end. How do we know that these childhood diseases, chickenpox, shingles, measles, measles, mumps, that kind of stuff, is a detox? Well, it makes sense that you would have, if you have this, you would have less diseases later. And if it was shutting down detox, you'd have more diseases later. And we all know that the jabs cause more diseases later because they are toxic, which then slows down your detox. Remember, the more toxins you take in, the slower your detox goes, the more toxicity you tend to accumulate over time because your detox is slowed. And then you get more disease conditions and your detox slows further. Just like your car. You drive your car, it gets dirty. It's not as effective and efficient at running. And then it gets dirtier over time and it loses even more efficiency and effectiveness. Like, so that this things getting dirty makes them run less well. It's simple mechanical ideas here. So here we go. Febrile, infectious childhood diseases. This is with fever in the history of cancer patients and matched controls. So they have a hypothesis that these febrile infectious childhood diseases are associated with a lower cancer risk in adulthood. The study consistently revealed a lower cancer risk for patients with a history of febrile childhood diseases. The strongest associations were found between patients with non-breast cancers and rubella, respectively chickenpox. A strong association was also found with the overall number of febrile childhood diseases, both classical, as in measles, mumps, rubella, pertussis, that's whooping cough, scarlet fever, and chickenpox, and other. None of these associations was apparent for patients with breast cancer. So breast cancer didn't connect to any of the childhood diseases. Okay, so it's a different toxin. Unexpectedly, we found that cancer was diagnosed significantly earlier in life in cancer patients with a history of febrile childhood diseases compared to those without febrile childhood disease. Now, you got to remember, if these childhood diseases are an indicator of toxicity, this can go either way, right? They could become even more toxic because of whatever they were doing, and then they get sick or they get cancer, or they've detoxed it and they don't have as much toxicity in them, and so they don't get it later. You have to understand that this can go both ways. Both things can be true, okay? Each person is different in what they're going to be exposed to. So our retrospective study showed a significant association between febrile childhood diseases and the risk of developing cancer. The number of febrile childhood diseases decreased the cancer risk. So the more of them they had, the less their cancer risk. You want to be able to dump this stuff. I've talked about this before. One of the scariest things as a practitioner is when I have people come to me, like let's say I have a woman come to me and she's like, I'm super healthy. Yeah, I had breast cancer, but I never get sick anymore. That's really, really bad. Like her detox system, her cleanup crew, her immune system, which is your cleanup crew, can't even mount a detox anymore. But she's already had cancer. Cancer is like one of the deepest toxicity states you can have. So as they're saying here, the more detox cycles they went through, it decreased the cancer risk, in particular for non-breast cancer. The relationship with tumor sites seems to be important also, but can only be addressed in a larger study. So this is where we're starting to connect these things. So that was cancer. Now, let's do the next one. History of chickenpox in glioma risk. This is a type of brain cancer. A report from the Glioma International Case Control Study. We found that a positive history of chickenpox, so having had chickenpox, was associated with a 21% lower glioma risk, adjusting for age and sex. Furthermore, the protective effect of chickenpox was stronger for high-grade gliomas, so that they had fewer of the more bad or worse brain cancers. Our study provides additional evidence that the observed protective effect of chickenpox against glioma is unlikely to be coincidental. Okay? Yeah, Joe, I'm going back. I'm trying to go through in the order that it's on the sheet. So chickenpox is another detox thing. Can they still get cancer? Yeah, of course. You can overpower the detox. Okay, Axel Solis said, interesting. I wonder if getting sick more often when working on opening detox pathways, maybe that's a sign of the detox pathways opening. Yes, actually, I don't have it on today's show, but there was a paper where a guy had a suspicion that getting too acidic, it was a researcher, a scientist, he thought that getting too acidic could be what colds and flus are. So he injected himself with something acidic, and he started getting all the symptoms of colds and flu, and then he took baking soda and it went away. Baking soda, I'm going to tell you that over-alkalizing stuff does stop your bile production. It slows it down greatly. I've shown this in dogs. So yes, you could shut it down, but what is acidic that we talk about, that Anthony Mawson has talked about in all his papers, including influenza and COVID? Retinoic acid. Okay. So yes, you might, I used to tell people this before I knew all about vitamin A toxicity. I used to tell people that if we started getting them better, if they're doing what I say and they start getting better and they start feeling better, they're going to, if they were the person like the breast cancer woman who said, I never get sick, I would say, I need to prepare you for something. As you are getting better, you're going to start getting some colds and flus. It's going to happen because your detox system is going to start detoxing and it's going to come out of you. That's just the way it is. Oh, wow. Hound Jog. Wow. You just gave me chills. I was not expecting this. I mean, thank you for the very generous super chat, but wow. Hound Jog says, thank you for curing bipolar, asthma, hives, balance problems, and IBS. 5.5 months doing beef, beans, and barley wraps only. IBS is 1 month gone now. I mean, I don't understand. So that's amazing, Hound Jog. So you're doing the work. You're doing the work. I'm just the guide. So kudos to you. Anybody out there who's getting better, I'm just a guide. Like, people call me a doctor or whatever, but I'm just giving you the tools. I'm teaching you how to fish, and you guys are either going fishing or not. I don't understand how haters can be mad at what we're doing here. It's like they don't want to get better, or they don't want a cure to be found. And I'm not saying I don't cure anything. I will never say the C word as something I do. We help people fix their problems. So, Eve said they almost killed me with penicillin shots when I was 7. I had scarlet fever. Yeah. So that's just, yeah, Eve, you've been doing some interesting, some posts. I think you mentioned earlier in the chat that your child had a problem as soon as they got the MMR vaccine. I'm very sorry about that. I actually think I used to have, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that one guy who he was trying to fix vaccine damage in kids, and he would show the pictures of the kids' faces before and after the vaccines, and they would have one side like sagging. They would be getting, like mini strokes. I forget the guy's name. Yeah, Eve was saying her nephew. So I think I used to actually have that, because when I used to smile, my one side of my lips did not move up as much as the other. Okay, Axel says it's Forrest Moretti. I thought I remembered a different name. You might be right. I don't know. Okay. So he says it's a book called Crooked. I thought it was a French guy. I thought the guy had a French name. But anyway, I think I had some vaccine damage because my smile didn't used to, and I'm pretty sure it's gone away. One side used to stay low and one side used to go up. So, well, Will, I'm gonna get to those super chats. I gotta get through this, or I'm never gonna get there. I just saw Hound Jogs and I wanted to. It just blew my mind. So thank you for that testimonial, Hound Jog, and I'm very glad we could help you. I remember you coming on the live streams and asking questions in the comments, and we got you in the program, and you're doing it, and you're kicking ass now. So that's amazing. Okay, so let's keep going. Will, I will get to those. Don't worry. Okay, so here on the next one, mumps and ovarian cancer, modern interpretation of a historic association. Wait, a historic association? How long has this been going on? Ooh, wait. From the meta-analysis, the pooled odds ratio estimate for the mumps and ovarian cancer association was 0.81. That means if somebody got the mumps as a childhood disease, they got less ovarian cancer. Okay, so let's keep going. Now let me make this one a little bigger. So this is from the Physicians for Informed Consent. Gosh, what do you think they are not big fans of if they like informed consent? What does modern medicine not definitely avoid informed consent on? Oh, the shots. Let's go down here. This is from their own research. I just wanted to give you they have the references. You can always go and look at the references. What is their statement here? Furthermore, the risk of permanent injury and death from the MMR vaccine, measles, mumps, and rubella, has not been proven to be less than that of measles. The risk of permanent injury and death from this vaccine has not been proven to be less than that of measles. So I thought the new Maha guy wanted like solid science on this stuff if it was going to be recommended. This doesn't sound like solid science. So let's go down here and find this number 26. So they have, this is another article of theirs where they probably have the references where they're going through this. So this is that link. You can find it if you want. Okay. Because that's a whole nother article. Okay, so let's go into the next one. Risk factors for Hodgkin's disease by Epstein-Barr virus status, prior infection by Epstein-Barr virus and other agents. Infection by Epstein-Barr virus and other agents. Don't they usually call them pathogens? Or do they just give away that viruses are just toxins? So let's go into it. Hodgkin's disease is HD. That's why I wanted to do that. Prior infectious diseases, including infectious mononucleosis, which is mono, chickenpox, measles, mumps, pertussis, and rubella. A prior history of mono was positively associated with Hodgkin's disease. Now, so they're saying like Epstein-Barr virus, I think they assumed I had mono as a kid. I was pretty messed up. I was doing 5 sports in a summer. Like at once, I was doing 2 basketball teams, 2 baseball teams, and a swim team all at once. I was good enough and athletic enough that the coaches most of the time didn't care if I just came to games and they'd still start me. But I was going to all games. Like I was catching in every baseball game, like the whole game. And then I was starting in basketball and doing that. And then swimming, I was just going and sprinting. So it was like not a good thing. And I didn't know to eat more as a kid. I just ate what I felt like, but I didn't realize I had to eat more. And I probably wasn't eating that great of stuff anyway. So Epstein-Barr virus, if somebody has more viruses in them, they are more toxic. The more viruses and the more antibodies to the viruses that they find. Antibodies are proteins made by your body to bind to toxins. So if there are Epstein-Barr antibodies, they are binding, in theory, to one of the toxins that is the root cause of Epstein-Barr. Okay? So prior history of mono was positively associated with Hodgkin's disease. So the more, if they had mono, they found a higher risk of having Hodgkin's disease. Okay. And with Epstein-Barr positive Hodgkin's disease. And the difference between Epstein-Barr positive and Epstein-Barr negative, so these would be less toxic, right? Epstein-Barr negative would be, so they both had Hodgkin's disease. There was Epstein-Barr positive and Epstein-Barr negative. What I'm telling you is that the people who were Epstein-Barr positive and got Hodgkin's disease it would likely be more, and they would be worse because they're more toxic. Okay. The difference between them was statistically significant. The remaining infectious illnesses combined, so all the rest of them, what was that? Chickenpox, measles, mumps, pertussis, and rubella. The remaining infectious illnesses combined were negatively associated with Hodgkin's disease, Epstein-Barr positive HD, and Epstein-Barr negative HD. So if you had those childhood diseases, any of them, all of them, there was less of a risk of Hodgkin's disease and Epstein-Barr positive Hodgkin's disease and Epstein-Barr negative Hodgkin's disease. These results support previous evidence that early exposure to infection protects against Hodgkin's disease and that mono increases subsequent risk. So mono is like not a good situation. Okay. Let's go into the next one. Again, this is kind of the same topic, but this is just women. Exposure to childhood infections and risk of Epstein-Barr virus defined Hodgkin's lymphoma in women. So we got EBV is Epstein-Barr, Hodgkin's lymphoma, HL. Tumor Epstein-Barr virus status. So in the tumor, they're trying to find Epstein-Barr virus. So what do we say tumors are? What do we say cancers are? Toxicity storage. Interesting that they're looking for the virus in the tumor. The risk of it was decreased for common childhood infections, including measles before age 10, but not with prior mono. Again, we find that mono is not a good thing, which is delayed Epstein-Barr infection. Okay. Oh, you guys, I'm going to post the recipe for my, as I started calling it, the prison slop. I started making in the Instant Pot. I call it prison slop. It's ground beef and sorghum, organic sorghum, and organic. You can use any bean you want. I have a storage of black-eyed peas, which is not what I want to use. I'm probably going to switch to a white bean after this, but I just have black-eyed peas that I need to get rid of, and I'm not worried about using them. And then salt and water. So it's I'll go over the recipe on how to make it. I'll post that in the Love Your Liver program. Kelsey was over here last week, and she liked it, and my mom likes it, and everybody seems to like it. So yeah, I'll post that in the network. Let me see. Was there anything else in this? No. So again, Epstein-Barr virus. I had what they think they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me when I was a kid. I was doing all these things. No doctor ever asked me like, how much activity are you doing? Like I was just tired, and I had my middle back pain, which haunted me for decades after that. And I had, what else did I have? Oh, I was sleeping like 14 hours a day. Yeah. Nobody ever said, are you just doing too much stuff? They gave me the chest x-ray. They did the blood test. They didn't find anything. This was part of where, between that event where conventional medicine couldn't do a little simple questions of like, are you maybe doing too much? Or they also couldn't find anything with all their fancy imaging. That was where I started to lose faith in them. The next one was when I rolled my ankle, and the orthopedic surgeon, who was a family friend of mine, goes, well, I think you might have a stress fracture in your ankle from rolling it. And I'm like, even as a kid, the internet wasn't even really a thing yet. And I was going, stress fractures are from chronic stress, not an acute stressor. And then they put me in a cast for 8 weeks. So I missed the start of basketball season, which was probably, I was fine with it, but it's just like, I started to lose faith in the importance of a diagnosis. It's like, just treat it, just fix it. So what did I do to fix my mono? I just stopped playing all the sports because they all ended at the end of the summer. And then I just had time until the new school year started again. And I seemed to get better. Okay. But it might have been after my ketoconazole that I took for my tinea versicolor. So ketoconazole kills testosterone. Ketoconazole slows ALDH. I think ketoconazole in my childhood was the start of my main downslide in my health. Okay, so let's go here. Do childhood diseases affect non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and Hodgkin's lymphoma risk? A case control study from northern and southern Italy. Okay, so we got non is HL, and then we got Hodgkin, Hodgkin lymphoma is HL. After adjusting for confounding factors, all examined childhood diseases were negatively associated with Hodgkin's lymphoma. Measles was negatively associated with non-Hodgkin lymphoma, particularly follicular B-cell non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Okay? These childhood diseases are protecting people from cancers later in life and other diseases. Measles and atopy or atopic conditions in Guinea-Bissau. This is allergic conditions. Do we have an issue with allergic conditions in this country? Yes. Actually, let me go find I want to show you this. This is one of my threads on my old research forum. I think we got it here. So, Joe, you may want to put this link up. Or is this not the right one? No, that's the one. Hold on, let me go find. There we go. Okay. Let me just see that this is this is the one with multiple studies. Okay. So I will post this link in the chat. So when we're talking about atopy, it's allergic related diseases, like we were talking earlier about asthma. I'm not going to go through all these studies, but they're saying, so let's go to that one. Measles and atopy in Guinea-Bissau. Okay. Measles infection may prevent the development of atopy in African children. Allergic diseases. Measles infection may prevent the development of allergic diseases in African children. What is one of the places where vitamin A comes out in people? It comes out through their skin. What if measles is partially a detox of vitamin A through the skin? Well, okay, so we could theorize that. So if detoxing, if vitamin A is part of measles and detoxing it in terms of the measles process is related to less allergies, is vitamin A intake as a child related to more allergies? Well, we're just going to run through this. I'm going to say you can read this article if you want. Basically, we have twice demonstrated that high dose, this is the paper, disparity between vitamin A-induced Th1-dependent oral tolerance in newborn mice and vitamin A-induced atopic sensitization in Guinean girls. Wow, the same place. This is crazy. I wasn't expecting this when I pulled this up. We have twice demonstrated that high-dose vitamin A supplementation given to newborn girls in Guinea-Bissau increases wheeze and atopic sensitization to aeroallergens, allergens in the air, later in childhood. The failure of vitamin A supplementation to protect against atopy, and it's actually the cause of it, and indeed to promote sensitization in Guinean girls leaves a disparity between the clinical and laboratory findings that needs to be resolved. So what are they doing? They're giving these girls vitamin A because they have low serum retinol. Why do they have low serum retinol? Because they don't eat enough meat, which contains lots of protein and lots of zinc. And if you don't get enough protein and you don't get enough zinc, the vitamin A stays stuck in your liver. So you build it up in your liver, and then you get allergic diseases while these brilliant doctors are measuring your blood for one of the forms of vitamin A, and they're saying, you're low, we're going to give you some. And they screw them up. And now people are saying measles has low serum retinol. And we can megadose them in retinol, and the measles situation seems to go away. What could make the measles situation go away from high-dose vitamin A? You shut down detox. So the measles goes away, and now you're vitamin A toxic, and you get more diseases in the future. And this, so there was 2 links right here, 2 and 3. Here's those 2 studies. Vitamin A supplementation and BCG vaccination at birth may affect atopy in childhood. Long-term follow-up of a randomized controlled trial. Vitamin A supplementation was associated with increased atopy, especially in those who received simultaneous BCG vaccine. Vitamin A supplementation increased odds of wheeze within the past 12 months. So what are they probably going to want to do to kids these days and with the measles scare? You think they're going to want to make sure they're jabbed? Yes. You think they're going to give them high dose vitamin A? Yes. It's at least 100,000 to 200,000 units of vitamin A in one dose. Newborn vitamin A supplementation was associated with increased allergic disease. Neonatal vitamin A supplementation. So newborn vitamin A supplementation associated with increased atopy in girls. Conclusion, the study corroborated, as in backed up, previous observations. Neonatal vaccine or vitamin A supplementation was associated with increased risk of atopy and wheezing in this study only among females. Can you say asthma? Further studies on neonatal vitamin A supplementation and atopy are warranted. This isn't even the one with let me go find the multivitamin one. Man, where's the allergies one that I had? Oh, asthma and allergy in children. Here we go. Let me go here and go back to that one. So I have it. And then we're going to have this one. Vitamin A, the more vitamin A people get in childhood, the more allergic they are. So I'm just going to go over these papers. I'm not going to go over each one of them. If you guys want to go read them, you can. Let me do this link for Joe. Early infant multivitamin supplementation is associated with increased risk for food allergy and asthma. What's in multivitamins? Vitamin A, retinol palmitate, beta carotene, but two forms of vitamin A usually. There's vitamin D, there's copper, there's all sorts of poisons in multivitamins. People always ask me, what do you recommend as a prenatal? What do you recommend as a multivitamin? None of them. The closest thing to a multivitamin that I would recommend is Keystone Minerals, and you decide whether you want flush niacin with it or not. We have two different versions. You can find them on our shop. So, effects of early intake of fruit or vegetables in relation to later asthma and allergic sensitization in school-age children. Wow, that's crazy, right? Aren't fruit and vegetables good for children? They wouldn't cause more allergies, would they? Polyphenols, vitamin A, carotenoids. Whereas allergic sensitization at school age seemed to increase with extra vitamin and cod liver oil supplements during infancy. So it's better if they're saying here daily fresh fruit or vegetables may decrease the risk of asthma after 1 year of life. I would have to say probably fresh fruit and vegetables are better than dairy. So you're going to push out. The thing is you can push out bad foods with other foods, and they can be better or worse. But geez, extra vitamin and cod liver oil supplements, you Weston A. Pricers, past ones or current ones, do you know why Weston Price is so big on the GAPS diet, which is supposedly for food allergies and other conditions? Because the Weston Price diet makes children allergic because it's so high in vitamin A. They ignore all of this research. They deny it. They'll be like, oh, well, it's the extra vitamins. But then they kind of ignore the cod liver oil thing. Even though Weston Price himself said that cod liver oil could increase allergic diseases in children. The role of latitude ultraviolet radiation exposure on vitamin D in childhood asthma and hay fever, an Australian multi-center study. Oral supplementation with cod liver oil in childhood increased the odds of a history of having both asthma and hay fever. Why do we see allergic diseases go away on the program? Vitamin A and D intake in pregnancy, infant supplementation, and asthma development. The Norwegian mother and child cohort. Background: Western diets may provide excess vitamin A, which is potentially toxic. Well, it is toxic and could adversely affect respiratory health. The aim of this study was to examine child asthma at age 7 years in relation to maternal motherly intake of vitamins A and D during pregnancy. You hand down your toxicity. That's the only way that this would be connected. infant supplementation with these vitamins and their potential interaction. We studied 61,000 school-age children from the Norwegian mother and child cohort with data on motherly total food and supplement nutrient intake in pregnancy. Food. Let me just emphasize food. It's not natural versus synthetic. Food. Nutrient intake in pregnancy with food frequency questionnaire validated against biomarkers. If you're one of those people out there who loves to throw out epidemiology entirely, I'm sorry. You're making a huge mistake. You probably believe in cell studies, which are complete trash garbage and don't correlate to human health at all. Actually, they're often the opposite. But then you're going to throw out them asking the patterns that they could find in 61,000 children. Okay, an infant supplement use at age 6 months. Oh, it's only 54,000 children. Okay, sorry, it always does that after I highlight it. Asthma in the children increased according to motherly intake of total vitamin A, food plus supplements. In the highest, as in the highest intakes compared to the lowest intakes, the fifth. So the highest 20% and the lowest 20%. Highest asthma in the highest intake of vitamin A during pregnancy. So yes, sadly, ladies, your kids being sick is partially your fault. Get over it. I'm sorry. Take the responsibility. I'm telling you what it was. You can fix it. You can't fix a problem until you know what it is. I'm here to tell you this is part of the problem. And the whole, what's that other pregnancy diet thing that's out there? Not Weston Price, but the guy who does a lot of Weston Price stuff. It's like the diet for pregnant mothers is totally high in vitamin A. It's making your children sick. Stop with the eggs. Stop with the dairy. Stop with the pork. Stop with the cod liver oil. Stop with the multivitamins and the prenatals. Stop with the brightly colored fruits and vegetables. Excess vitamin A, more than 2.5 times the recommended intake. If you're a health nut, you're easily over this. You're so easily over this. During pregnancy was associated with increased risk of, and I added this, of asthma in the children at 7 years old. Excess vitamin A in pregnancy was still showing up with more asthma in children at 7 years old. It's a stored toxin. It doesn't just go away unless we do stuff to make it go away. Asthma is characterized by chronic airway inflammation and has been associated with atopy, as in allergic diseases, and a T helper 2 dominated cytokine profile. Retinoic acid may have a Th2 cell promoting effect. Wait, they're saying allergy diseases are associated with a T helper 2 dominated. So lots of these. Retinoic acid may have a Th2 cell promoting effect. What a weird connection. Excess vitamin A also accumulates in the lung. Oh, you mean like asthma and allergies and wheezing? Where retinoid metabolites may cause asthma-like symptoms. In the rat lung, vitamin A supplementation with higher and intermediate doses increases markers of oxidative stress, which also may impair lung function. We found no indication that antioxidant properties of beta-carotene protect against asthma. The effect of beta-carotene was weaker, but in the same direction as retinol. The body can store beta-carotene so you don't overwhelm your liver with retinol. That's why people say, well, beta-carotene doesn't convert into retinol very well. It's because your body wants to put it into storage so you don't overwhelm the liver. Your liver actually has control over this. It's saying, not right now. Back off. Hold on to it. I don't want to deal with it right now. Your body's very intelligent. Conclusions. In this study, we found that I just want to say this word. Diet naturally high in vitamin A. We found that a diet naturally high in vitamin A combined with the use of supplements containing retinol during pregnancy place women at risk of vitamin A excess, which was associated with increased susceptibility to asthma in school-age children 7 years later. We observed this effect for intakes that were more than or equal to 2.5 times the recommended dose, which is below the tolerable upper intake level for retinol of 3,000 micrograms during pregnancy. So they saw this effect at a lower dose than the supposed tolerable upper intake level for retinol of 3,000 micrograms per day during pregnancy. You should be minimizing your vitamin A intake for pregnancy, ladies. Before pregnancy, I don't suggest women start like the major Love Your Liver program during pregnancy. You can start reducing, you can eat white potatoes instead of sweet potatoes. You can make substitutions. But if you're already pregnant, I do not suggest going full bore Love Your Liver, because you're going to start dumping vitamin A, and I don't need that going into your blood. Oh, hi, Taryn. Taryn's in the chat. Taryn is my lovely daughter. So if you want to say hi to her, she's out there. Nice to have you on, sweetie. So I think that's it. So that's this link. So we had Kelsey in the chat, and now we have Taryn in the chat. It's a family event today. Let me see, where were we? There we were. Okay, so we did this one and Hodgkin's lymphoma. We did measles and atopy. Okay, we definitely covered measles and atopy, and now we're moving on. Okay. So what if vitamin A detox pathways, especially ALDH and bile production, are slowed down by jabs and vitamin A? This is why when people go, but I don't have a lot of vitamin A toxicity. Why would I have these conditions? How could I have vitamin A toxicity? Because you could have all sorts of toxicity, because if you slow down the whole detox mechanism, whether it's jabs or antibiotics or vitamin A or vitamin D supplements or whatever, you're slowing down the entire detox process. So anything can build up, and it builds up. If you have the same intake in two different people and one of them has a slower detox system, the person with the slower detox system builds up more of everything. This is just a systems approach. It should all make sense. People want it to be like, why doesn't this one thing do everything? No one thing does everything. Allergic disease and atopic sensitization in children in relation to measles vaccination and measles infection. So if they got the jab versus if they got the infection, what do you think we're going to find? After this exclusion, inverse associations, as in more measles, less of, were observed between measles infection and, quote, any allergic symptom and, quote, any diagnosis of allergy by a physician. Our data suggests that measles infection may protect against allergic disease in children. So we just went over more vitamin A causes more allergic disease in children, and we just went over how measles infection results in less of all allergic diseases. And they're going to give vitamin A to kids. There's going to be people out there who are preventatively, they're like, well, I don't want to get the jab, so I'm going to give my child 100,000 units or 200,000 units of vitamin A. And then they're going to wonder why their kid is allergic and has asthma and has all sorts of health problems that start slowly after that. They could start quickly, but they start, why is my kid so sick? I don't understand, doctor. They never got the measles. Oh, whoopsie. And I can tell you from my childhood, I never got the measles. I did get chickenpox. I never got the measles. I don't know anybody personally I don't know anybody who ever got the measles. Did I get the MMR? Probably. I'm sure I did. So I never got it. I did get chickenpox though. So, so I'm just laughing at Joe talking to Taryn in the chat. Oh, I think we went over this one. Febrile disease, febrile infectious. Yeah, we already went over this one. Okay, so let's go to the next one. We'll close that one. And we have, oh, I closed the share. Sorry, Joe, I'll get it back. Share screen. There we go. That's not the right one. We'll go here. Okay, here we go. Association of measles and mumps with cardiovascular disease. So now we have heart disease. So if you didn't see my heart disease 2-part live stream, you might want to go check that one out after this. The Japan Collaborative Cohort Study. Now I'm gonna tell you that the traditional Japanese diet and possibly the even the more modern Japanese diet is not a high vitamin A diet. It's just not. It never was. They don't do dairy. The Japanese do eat more eggs than any group on average on Earth. And that comes out to, I think it was 1.1 eggs a week. Look at Americans. They're just sucking down eggs like 6 to 12 a day, like these health maxers. Oh my gosh, it's going to end so badly. But let's just go over this. Measles and mumps, especially in case of both infections. So if people got both of these infectious diseases and detoxed all that crap, were associated with lower risks of death from heart disease. How many diseases do we need to connect to this? Okay. So that is that. I need to close all these down. Joe, you got all those. Can you save all those, the forum links that I went over? That'd be great. And I'll put those in the document later. I'm just clicking out of all these so I have room to add to open up the new tabs. So now let's go. So we did that. Now let's go over some associations of what happens when they give high dose vitamin A in childhood diseases. Does it always end well? What do you think we're going to find? Oh my gosh. I got a lot of links in this section. Imagine me having a lot of links. Okay, let's get started. So, first, I want to hit on if you didn't know already, Bill Gates is a huge fan of vitamin A in foods, in injections. I don't know if you know this, but the World Health Organization calls a shot of vitamin A. So they will give children a shot of vitamin A, an injection of vitamin A with the vaccines, or they'll do 2 separate pokes. They call it an immunization. I've shown that website before. Vitamin A immunization. That's weird. Why would they call it that? So this is a whole thread about Bill Gates and, oh yeah, yellow rice. Yeah, Buttercup says golden rice. That's one of Bill's projects. He was also making high vitamin A bananas, like non-sweet bananas. And the funny thing was they were looking for people, I believe it was in Australia or New Zealand, but they only wanted women. They didn't want to test it in men. And I'm going, why? Would it reduce sperm counts? Maybe. Vitamin A is part of the infertility psyop. So Bill Gates loves vitamin A. So I want you to understand, again, RFK Jr., Bill Gates, the World Health Organization, the CDC. Maybe I should go look up, let me just go do a quick search. Let me do Fauci vitamin A measles. Let's see if our favorite guy loves it too. Wait, I want to see what this says. Hold on. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. We're going to have, let me just see this. Let me show you this. This is crazy. This is just showing you that they're going to talk out of both sides of their mouth. They're talking some of the truth. So here we have doctors push back as parents embrace Kennedy and vitamin A in Texas measles outbreak. I mean, the World Health Organization endorses vitamin A for measles. So doctors are now pushing back against Kennedy and the World Health Organization and the CDC. But they have to confuse you, and they have to take you rebel types. If you're listening to this, if you're one of these rebel types and you're already like, screw the government, they're lying to us. Well, now your government says to take vitamin A, but just new guy comes in and he says, take this. But everybody else that you don't trust is saying, take it too. But then they have the articles like this and Reuters. I mean, Reuters doesn't get any bigger than this, right? The supplement does not prevent measles. No, it doesn't prevent it. No, it probably is the cause of it and can be harmful to children in large or prolonged doses, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics. It has been shown to decrease the severity of measles infections in developing countries among patients who are malnourished. They don't get meat, so they don't get protein and zinc. And then they say they're vitamin A deficient. Vitamin A deficiency is a rare occurrence in the United States. Ever wonder that we don't really have measles here because we're not malnourished and we tend to eat plenty of meat? And even our government says vitamin A deficiency hardly ever happens here. And that would be because your blood vitamin A, if you get enough zinc and protein, will always look okay. Because none of these people are detoxing vitamin A. They're even connecting it here, and they're saying vitamin A isn't really connected to this. It reduces the severity of, we'll go over that. But so they have to confuse you. Anyway, there was nothing on Fauci. So anyway, so we did the Bill Gates. Okay, so I want to give a shout out to Val Zimmer. Val Zimmer 2 on Twitter. I think you should follow him. He does a lot of great stuff. So this was his thread on measles in 2025. The medical community tells us that 2 kids have died of measles. There's people out there poking holes in the story. It's like the whole COVID thing. It's like people die of something and then they blame the coof. Okay, so what else did we have? The protocol from the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics is to give vitamin A supplementation, big doses of vitamin A. So now we have the American Academy of Pediatrics is warning against vitamin A. And the CDC, I mean, they're saying they're warning against it, but they're also endorsing it, and the CDC is also endorsing it. So which one is it? But look at this dosage by age, 12, a year or older. 200,000 units once a day for 2 days. So 400,000 units. No, it's Val Zimmer. Val Kilmer is a movie star, yes. But Val Zimmer is not. He's a good guy on Twitter. He reposts a lot of my stuff. I repost a lot of his stuff. So 6 to 11 months. 100,000 units once a day for 2 days. Infants under 6 months, 50,000 once a day for 2 days. So that's some big doses, okay? Now, I think this is the paper. This was from Grant Generou's book. So if you want to get Grant Generou's free ebooks, you can go to ggenerou.blog. And he has 3 free ebooks there. These are pictures from it, so there are actual references, but I couldn't always find the reference. So I'll just type it in here. ggenerou.blog. Now, let me warn you, if you go to Grant Generou's site and you see the forum, the free forum, I would suggest you avoid that like the plague, because it has been usurped and taken over by people who are against this. This is why I don't do a free forum. Free invites trolls. Free invites people who want to waste your time. If you want a place where everybody's in general alignment, yeah, people are going to have disagreements, but that's the Love Your Liver program. It's protected by the fee. Free things are ruined by people of little value. They go together. So, no, the forum there is not good. It has been completely taken over. There are people there who speak badly of Grant Genereux himself. And it's Grant's blog. Grant just doesn't keep a very good eye on it because he's got other things to do. He has a life. Vitamin A detox is not his entire life. So the forum got polluted. Let's call it that. Okay. So here we go. This is the paper, Neonatal Vitamin A Supplementation Associated with a Cluster of Deaths. Are you going to take the risk of killing your child to treat the measles and poor early growth in a randomized trial among low birth weight boys of vitamin A versus oral polio vaccine at birth? So this is not measles related. This is just high dose vitamin A. This is the quote from the paper. We detected a cluster of deaths in the vitamin A supplementation group, and the trial was halted immediately. Wow, this sounds like the U.S. Veterans Retin-A trial too, and all the beta-carotene trials I went over. The vitamin A supplementation group had significantly higher mortality or risk of death or actual death than the oral polio vaccine group. That's quite a statement. The vitamin A killed more kids than the oral polio vaccine. Of 7 vitamin A supplementation boys enrolled during 1 week in September, 6 died within 2 months of age, whereas only 1 died among the 6 boys receiving oral polio vaccine. So this is the link. I'm going to show you the link now. This is the actual paper. If you want to go look. I'm not going to read any more from it because we already went over that. And then the other thing that... so this was the other one that I couldn't find this book. Oh, sorry. Here it is. This one. I couldn't find this book, but here it is. If you can find it, I think Val bought it. I think Grant bought the book off of Amazon. So this is a real reference. So here we go. He's saying the study shows babies 1 to 3 months suffering mortality. That's death with vitamin A supplementation. And doctors wonder why the better nourished kids have more death and respiratory infections with high dose vitamin A. I'm going to cover that, which means it's even worse for you Weston Pricers. It gets even worse. Less clear is the reason why the youngest children, 1 to 3 months, given a large dose of vitamin A, 100,000 IUs, 1 to 3 months old, they gave them 100,000 units at once, may have suffered increased mortality. And this is the apologetics. This is the lie. Very young infants probably metabolize vitamin A differently than older children with more mature metabolic systems. No, you're just poisoning a smaller body more. That's it. As kids grow, their liver gets bigger and they can store more of this poison to prevent dying. But if you overwhelm it, you cause problems. Here we go. Even more surprising, the apparent excess mortality is predominantly confined to the best nourished. Oh my God. Well, I'm going to read this because I like it. Thank you, Audrey. I just wanted to say, she says, Dr. Smith, I've been a Love Your Liver member for 4 years and have witnessed your transformation to a healthier you as I watch your live streams. You're looking good. Well, thank you very much. I'm blushing. I appreciate that. It's really funny because people out there, somebody on Twitter tried to like insult me and they post a picture from like 4, 5, 6 years ago. And they're like, you look like this. And I'm like, you're the biggest moron I've ever seen. You're going to try to take something from my past and post it as like evidence of what physiognomy, bro, or whatever. And here I am 6 years later and I'm looking better And then the thing that's going to really get the Peters riled up is that my hair's coming back. I had this confirmed by another buddy of mine. Kelsey and I went out with a buddy of mine and hung out. And I mentioned that I was working on my hair, and he stops and he looks at my hair and he's like, it's coming back. And I was like, that's awesome. So all these people, and now I'm kind of doing the whole hair regrowth thing. Because now it's like, it's a personal vendetta that I have against these people. I could care less if I grow my hair back. I wasn't doing this until like the insults on social media started coming out. They're like, you're bald. And I'm like, no, I've never been bald. Why don't people understand what bald means? Bald means no hair. I always had hair, but now I'm going to regrow it. I am regrowing it. And boy, they're going to be mad when that all happens. So anyway, what were we saying? My daughter's comment on screen. So Taryn said, yay, I happen to agree, Dad. It's, I mean, why would people not be for this unless they're just attached to their drug of choice? I don't understand what people are going to argue against. You know what I mean? So are they mad I'm getting healthier? Are they mad that their stuff is not working? I don't know. Oh, Bojack, there's going to be a whole hair regrowth program. I'm working on it with my buddy William. And it's okay. You guys who have been in the Love Your Liver program, you understand that I don't just do one angle. And the hair program, I go over 6 different mechanisms of hair loss that all of it aligns with the Love Your Liver principles. And then we're going over how to restore it. And it's working. And then the fact that actually the guy who I learned some of this stuff from, when he looked at my YouTube and he was like, I told him how old I was. And he was like, you might be cooked. You might not be able to get anything back. And I was like, take that as a challenge too. So then I went and I'm working on it and I'm getting it back. So it's fun. This is the area. I mean, you can see how it looks fairly consistent. It didn't used to at all. But this is still the area that is the hardest to get for me, and it's coming. Like every time I do, one of the things in it, I'll throw this out there. One of the things I'm doing is microneedling, because you have to increase angiogenesis and blood flow, and I'm doing that. And every time I do it each week, I actually do it. I do it on Tuesday nights. Today, I do it after the live stream. So, but yeah, microneedling does work, but you want to enhance your healing and do other things. And there's other things. I mean, you can imagine, I don't do just one thing. So, but yeah, no mohawk, Joe. I mean, I'm wondering when I'm going to grow the mustache out because Kelsey doesn't really like it and the kids don't like it. And so me being the contrarian, I'm like, okay, when am I going to grow the mustache out again? You got to give everybody a little bit of a hard time. Anyway, let's keep going. I found some other papers too. So let's get into this next one. So sorry, that one from Val. Yeah, so they're seeing, so again, to continue here, the increase in acute lower respiratory infections is most pronounced among better nourished children receiving high dose vitamin A. Vitamin A toxicity from high dose happened more in better nourished children. Okay. Now there's this paper. Let's go to this one. Mortality, again, death of infants less than 6 months of age supplemented with vitamin A, a randomized double-masked trial in Nepal. I think this was the paper that, yeah. I think this is the paper that Val was going over. There was a tendency for the relative risk of death among vitamin A recipients to rise with improved nutritional status. These results suggest that a distribution of a large oral dose of vitamin A to infants less than 5 to 6 months of age may not benefit short-term survival. So what they're really saying is it increases their risk of death. It does not benefit their short-term survival. The electric chair does not benefit your short-term survival. The apologetics are just amazingly crazy. So, Joe, I was saying this paper, if this is the one we're talking about, this link, this was in Grant's book. This is actually a screenshot of Grant's book. I don't have a link to this. I can't find it. I even tried to find it on Google Books or books.google.com. They have the book, but they don't have this part, I think. And I think you can find it on Amazon. But this one I don't have a link to. This is a book. This is not like a research paper. And then this one, he goes into a whole nother thing. I forget which one that was. So anyway, that's those. So we just went over this one, the more kids dying as they were more well nourished. And then we go to this one. Now, this one I could not highlight. Sorry about that. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger. Vitamin A supplementation and increased prevalence of childhood diarrhea and acute respiratory symptoms. At what point are they going to realize that vitamin A is not good for people? So they did Haiti. There is uncertainty over whether vitamin A supplementation reduces morbidity among children with subclinical deficiency of the vitamin. So they're assuming subclinical means they're like in range. But they have a subclinical deficiency. So they're saying they have symptoms that they have decided that are related to vitamin A deficiency, even though their blood test is in range. Does this sound scientific? They're like, we've decided that it's like night vision. They're like, oh, you have poor night vision? That's a vitamin A deficiency symptom. But then we have people in the program who are on low vitamin A diets and their night vision is coming back. And bad night vision is also a symptom of zinc deficiency. So let's go here. The study shows an increased 2-week prevalence of diarrhea and the symptoms of respiratory infections after vitamin A supplementation. You sure you want to give your kids vitamin A? The vitamin A group was found to have an increased 2-week prevalence of all symptoms and signs of childhood morbidity assessed, including diarrhea, runny nose, cold and flu symptoms, cough, and rapid breathing. So this paper, again, vitamin A supplementation and increased prevalence of childhood diarrhea and acute respiratory symptoms. So they may not die. They may just get the squirts and colds and flus from vitamin A, supposed to help their immune system. Okay. Vitamin A supplementation and BCG vaccination at birth in low birth weight newborns. 2x2 factorial randomized controlled trial. This might be the one that I talked about. They really are going after Guinea-Bissau, right? The combined results of this trial and the complementary trial among normal birth weight neonates has now shown that overall it would not be beneficial to implement a neonatal newborn vitamin A supplementation policy in Guinea-Bissau. Worryingly, the trials show that vitamin A supplementation at birth can be harmful in girls. Yes, this was the paper I was discussing earlier. So then, wow, Indian Pediatrics, 1996. Potential toxicity of vitamin A supplementation in infancy. They are happy to poison your children, folks. So I don't know if I got this one. I don't know if it was on Sci-Hub or not, but just look at the title. I mean, the title kind of tells you what it's about, right? Okay. Oh, this one. Yeah, we went over this one. Okay. So this was the same thing we went over before. And then, I wanted to go over this one. This was another thing that Val came out with that I think was really good. So what he did, so if you did not know, when you eat vitamin A of any form, beta carotene or retinol in animal foods, retinol palmitate, which is really the main form that you eat from animal foods, taking supplements, putting it on your skin, it eventually turns into retinoic acids, which is the same thing as Retin-A, what was used in the study of U.S. veterans, where they stopped that study because too many of them were dying early, or Accutane, which is 13-cis-retinoic acid. Your body turns some of the vitamin A you eat into Accutane and retin-A. So what he did here, he's compared the effects of vitamin A poisoning from Accutane with the symptoms of the measles. So remember, we had more allergic diseases in kids who got vitamin A in their childhood. And then if they got measles, which is theoretically a detox of vitamin A, they had less allergies later. So we have them connected. So now, what if measles is when they look at measles and they say they have low blood serum retinol, okay, low blood vitamin A, they measure retinol. Do they measure retinaldehyde? No. Do they measure retinoic acid? No. So could retinaldehyde be high and they just don't measure it? Yeah. Could retinoic acid be high and they just don't measure it? Yeah. Could the retinol be low because it's turned into other things that they don't measure for? Absolutely, it's possible. So what if we see the symptoms are the same for retinoic acids? Okay, so how can vitamin A, as in 13-cis-retinoic acid, cause the symptoms on the left but cure the exact same symptoms listed on the right? It can't. So Accutane side effects versus measles symptoms: fever, irritated eyes with burning, redness, and itching, red watery eyes, bone or joint pain, back pain or joint pain, trouble breathing, shortness of breath, severe breathing problems, including pneumonia, hearing or vision problems, blindness and ear infections, increased pressure on the brain, encephalitis or brain swelling, birth defects, complicated pregnancy, severe stomach, chest, or bowel pain, severe diarrhea and related dehydration, nosebleeds, runny nose, muscle pain, body aches, skin infection or rash, skin rash. So they're not all going to be exactly the same, but you can see the pattern. And this is Accutane side effects, which they look at more. And then you have many of you here are Accutane survivors, and there's all sorts of stuff. How could Accutane increase anaphylactic reactions? Gosh, maybe you should go watch my vitamin A or my anaphylaxis and sepsis live stream for that one. So I thought this was a great thing he did. So what if measles is just a dumping of retinoic acid through the skin? Okay, now, one of my favorite quotes of all time on vitamin A comes from this paper, The Neurotoxic Effects of Vitamin A and Retinoids. And I have the other things highlighted in here, so let me find it. Let me just go, oops, wait, got to type it right. Come on, I can do this. I can do it. Okay. Nonetheless, remember when we were talking about in those vitamin A supplementation studies where they gave high dose vitamin A and the well-nourished children had the most problems from it? Nonetheless, it has been demonstrated that vitamin A intake among well-nourished subjects may lead to decreased life quality and increased mortality rates. If you are well-nourished, which pretty much I'm going to assume if you're here listening to this, you probably live in a first world country and you are well nourished, especially you Weston pricers out there. You're eating plenty of food. I've seen you. The more vitamin A you get, if you are well nourished, the more it reduces your quality of life, which means it makes you sicker. And the more likely you are to die early, just like those other studies on children showed. And you can go and check this gentleman's 4 separate references on it. Okay, let's do I think this is the last one. Oh. And again, so now we're going to talk about well-nourished kids and vitamin A. Vitamin A in children hospitalized for measles in a high-income country. So a high-income country, they're unlikely to be malnourished, right? The thing I want you to pay attention to here, well, we'll go into this. So a total of 108 inpatient children were enrolled. 36 received 2 doses of oil-based vitamin A according to age. So it's that 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 for 2 days. And 72 matched controls received standard care. Oh no, are they at risk of death? There were no significant differences between the study groups in the duration of fever, length of hospitalization, maximum body temperature, rate of organ issues, liver, kidneys, that stuff, and and blood, like anemia, that kind of stuff, and hematologic complications or need for antibiotic treatment. Overall, vitamin A supplementation did not reduce the risk of any complications. Conclusion: vitamin A does not change the clinical course of measles infection or the rate of complications in children hospitalized in a high-income country. Measles is a disease of malnourishment. Didn't I already do this with beriberi and vitamin D, rickets, beriberi and rickets and measles, and all these diseases are from a lack of meat in the diet. I've talked about the all muscle meat carnivore diet before. This is why the all muscle meat carnivore diet helps so many people in so many ways, is because it's muscle meat. I'm not talking about nose to tail. Nose to tail is complete garbage. Throw that in the trash. Avoid it. Avoid pork, avoid eggs, avoid dairy, avoid these and fish and shellfish because it's full of microplastics and mercury and all that stuff. But the all muscle meat, so we're talking about like a diet, the all muscle meat carnivore diet, it might be made up of red meats, various red meats. It might be made up of poultry too, but that's all we're talking about. We're not talking about any organs. We're not talking about any of that stuff. The all muscle meat carnivore diet is about the highest protein diet you could eat. So they get plenty of protein. It's about the highest zinc diet you could eat. It's the lowest vitamin A diet you could eat. It's the lowest copper diet you could eat. It's also amazingly low in vitamin C. Gosh, don't we need that? So you see these people saying they're having amazing healing on it. And I go, yeah, okay, it is good. Like that part of it is good. And I've never said it's not. I do think that long-term all muscle meat carnivores will benefit. And we've had people do this because long-term muscle meat carnivore does not always fix everything. If they just got some soluble fiber in their diet so they could feed the bifidobacteria and so they could poop better, unlike the guy I saw on Twitter who was claiming to have perfect digestion and he only crapped once every 5 days. That's not good. The bile is all just getting totally recycled, going right back to his liver. So whatever he had toxicity before, he's not getting rid of it. It's just staying in the enterohepatic circulation loop. So it's not going into the main system as much. But he is taking in a lot fewer toxins. So that's good. So he feels better. There's less toxins in his blood. His symptoms go away. That doesn't mean he's getting less toxins in his liver. It's just recycling. That's a long explanation here. But yeah, like I said, those Weston pricers eating plenty of meat, plenty of eggs, plenty of dairy, tons of vitamin A. The two groups of people who are the hardest for me to help fix or who take the longest are those who took Accutane and nose to tail carnivores. The people who ate tons of animal vitamin A, retinol, retinol palmitate, vitamin A already bound to fat. Those are the hardest people. They take the longest to fix. It is what it is. So if you're listening to this and you're a nose to tail carnivore, I'm sorry, or a WAPFer, a Weston A. Pricer, and you're like, wow, now I'm realizing that my family's been getting sicker as we go and the kids are getting more allergic. And I thought it was amazing at the start and I felt great for the first, there's no long-term nose to tail carnivores. They all fail if they eat tons of vitamin A because they eat tons of vitamin A. That's why they all fail. That's why the muscle meat carnivores are the people. When you see somebody who's saying, I've been carnivore for like 10 or 15 years, they're always all muscle meat. So, okay, so let me close out all of these windows and we'll go to the next section. This is like take your daughter to work day. I got Taryn watching my live stream. So let's see. Here we go. Oh, so you know how we talk about toxic bile paradigm, toxic bile theory is what we used to call it. Let's go into, so is measles connected to liver conditions? Gosh, that would be weird if it was, wouldn't it? Like bile ducts and liver and all that stuff. So let's go here. Let's share this tab and then we can get rid of that one. Okay. I want you to pay attention to this. When I say toxic bile and how viruses are toxicity, and that antibodies are proteins made by the body to bind to toxins. I'm just going to give you something to chew on because I can't say, you know, the title of this study and the information in it is beyond my understanding, but I just want you to pay attention to this. Towards the conformational mimicry of the measles virus HNE loop, design, synthesis, and biological evaluation of a cyclic bile acid peptide conjugate. What is mimicry? Something that looks like something else, or that is designed to look like or function like something else. So if they were conforming or making something that is shaped like something else of the measles virus, and it looks like a bile acid protein bound together. Wait, toxic bile paradigm, viruses. Weird. The current article reports the design, synthesis, and biochemical evaluation of a cyclic bile acid peptide conjugate as a mimic of the loop-like structure of the measles virus hemagglutinin noose epitope. So the measles virus has parts in it that are similar to bile acids? Whoa, that's so weird, right? Those of you who are here should be, this should be like a holy crap moment. When I saw this, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go over this. So let's keep going now. Measles-associated hepatoliver bile duct disease, an overview. Why would these be connected? You know what you're going to hear in these papers is they're going to say that measles caused the liver disease. We all know better than that. These things come together. It's all related to the liver. So the measles is a result of the liver issues. They always put the cart before the horse because we have to scare you about viruses. We must keep you in fear forever about viruses. In this report, the literature on all cases of documented measles with hepatobiliary disease, so that's liver and gallbladder or liver and bile duct disease, was reviewed to describe the characteristics of measles-associated hepatitis, liver inflammation associated with measles. We found 27 patients described. Their age ranged from 9 to 59 years. Male to female ratio, excluding military facilities, was 1-to-1. The clinical and laboratory presentation appeared to follow one of two patterns. The first was suggestive of hepatocellular dysfunction characterized by aminotransferase elevation. That's liver enzymes. So liver enzymes went up. It was encountered in 24 of 27 cases, 7 of them with atypical measles. Wow, so the liver dysfunction showed up on the labs in almost every single measles case. Gosh, do you think the liver is connected to measles? This form of liver disease tended to be asymptomatic. It appeared early and resolved in a few days. They weren't as bad. The second pattern was characterized by, what's this word? Cholestasis? Toxic leaky bile? Toxic bile paradigm? And jaundice, which is bilirubin leaking into the blood. We also like to call it here bilirubin. So it's bile leaking into the blood. Wow, bile leaking into the blood, the second pattern. It was described in 3 cases. This type of hepatitis became apparent when measles began to recede and persisted for 2 weeks or longer. So they dumped the toxicity out the skin where they could, but if they couldn't get enough out, boy, then the liver was really suffering, and it kept going longer because it was bile leakage. It didn't just fix itself. You remember how the gentleman earlier in the testimonial said he would get a cold and then he would have asthma for a year after that? See any similarity here? So let's keep going. Hepatitis during measles in young adults, possible role of antipyretic drugs. These are drugs, anti-fever drugs. "56% of 118 young adults observed during a recent measles epidemic had some disturbance on liver function tests. 5% of them developed overt jaundice, which is cholestasis, toxic leaky bile. Patients treated for fever with paracetamol, this is acetaminophen, this is Tylenol, were found to have significantly higher rates of transaminase impairment. That means higher liver enzymes, compared to those treated with dipyrone. 65% and 58% of patients given paracetamol, acetaminophen, Tylenol had elevated ALT and AST levels respectively. So we have a liver problem. They've decided that fever is bad. Do you know that fever is one of the most classic symptoms of excess bile in your blood? Like short-term symptoms, typically. Hot flashes, ladies. Your hot flashes are bile in your blood. Night sweats, folks. Night sweats, bile in your blood. Okay? So they have people with a liver problem, and they give them a liver toxin, also known as Tylenol or acetaminophen or paracetamol, and their liver enzymes go up because their liver was already strained. The mean levels of liver enzymes and bilirubin in the paracetamol-treated patients were significantly higher than those found in the dipyrone-treated patients. So the dipyrone is probably less toxic than the acetaminophen. The cumulative dose, the total dose of acetaminophen, paracetamol, Tylenol in those who had impaired liver function was higher than that ingested by patients who did not develop liver damage, although still within the usual therapeutic range. Acetaminophen, Tylenol, paracetamol is bad for your liver. Full stop. Do not okay, so I'll put it this way so I don't get in any trouble. I would not treat a fever with drugs until the fever was 105. I would do other things, you know, the cool towel on the forehead, the getting in a lukewarm bath. I would be doing other things to comfort myself if I had this, but I would not be taking aspirin. I would not be taking paracetamol or acetaminophen unless I really, really needed to and my fever was really high. Okay? Don't just get a little fever and start taking drugs. Oh God, folks, don't get a cold and then start taking ivermectin and Fenben. Seriously, it's a cold. Man up, woman up, put your big boy pants on. It's a cold. Stop being a wuss. Do not take pharmaceuticals for a cold. Do not give your children pharmaceuticals for a cold. All right, Will says doing drugs is cool. I mean, boy, they've really got some of this, like, the pharma cartel really has a lot of this, like, Stockholm syndrome, and what's the other one? The, what's the one with typically the moms who, like, overtreat their kids? What's that syndrome? I forget. You know what I mean. By proxy. Munchausen by proxy. These moms who like want to overtreat their kids and they're giving their kids ivermectin and the kid gets symptoms and they go, oh, that's the parasites dying off. That's the Herxheimer reaction. The Herxheimer reaction is absolute horse shit. It doesn't exist. When you give people a pharmaceutical or a toxic herb and they get symptoms, you are giving them something toxic. And they actually showed this in the research that with Munchausen by proxy and these other things, The more symptoms people get from taking like an antiparasitic herb or a antiparasitic drug, the more symptoms they get, the more they start believing that it's working. It's called delusional parasitosis. We had a woman who was doing niacin enemas based on the information in the Love Your Liver program, and she said she was passing parasites every time she did the niacin enema. Niacin enema would heal your gut. And then she said at one point, and did she feel worse from the niacin enemas? No, she felt better. And then she said all of a sudden one day, there was no more parasites coming out. Did we have to go in and kill the parasites? No, we actually gave her a nutrient that helped her body to heal and to detox. And the parasites stopped being able to reproduce because parasites require a toxic environment to live. If you have parasites, if you think you have parasites, your job is not to kill the parasites. Your job is to restore the less toxicity and better nutrient status so the parasites can't live there. You ever notice how nice neighborhoods don't have like, a lot of homelessness and crime, and terrible neighborhoods have lots of homelessness and crime? There's a reason. Think about toxicity and deficiency in the real world. Oh, Hound Jog was saying MMS enemas did that too for her. Well, that would be getting rid of, chlorine dioxide is an oxidizer, and it helps break down, detox toxins. So yes, that could do the same thing too. So again, toxicity and deficiency. You can treat one side, you can treat both sides. That's how you get rid of the parasite problem. What do they want to do? They want to give you pharmaceutical, ivermectin is an insecticide. That's what it is. They want to give you an insecticide, probably because that's what they think of you. And Fenben is an antifungal, which slows down both of them slow down ALDH. Both of them slow down P-glycoprotein. They both slow down your detox. People get symptoms of feeling worse and they go, ooh, Herxheimer. The parasites are getting, I saw somebody on Twitter. Oh, you should see how angry my parasites get when I take my ivermectin and my other herbs and stuff. And she's like, so she feels like crap, and she has deluded herself into thinking her parasites are getting angry. If your parasites are getting angry, then you're not killing them. And then she said she has to do this once a month. I'm like, your protocol's ineffective, apparently. Your protocol sucks. Because why would you have to deparasite yourself every month? And the parasites get angry when you do it. Are they just laughing at you, or is it just delusion? Absolutely no niacin. No niacinamide. No nicotinamide, no niacinamide. I just did a big post on Twitter about the crappy ass study where they tried to say niacin increases like heart disease. They were talking about niacinamide, not flush niacin. But they didn't say that in the paper. Okay, so let's keep going. Liver involvement in adults with measles. Adults with measles are up a creek. They're not in a good spot. Children are supposed to get measles, they're more likely to get measles because they're detoxing early. By the time an adult gets measles, they probably suppressed it, and that probably means they have more liver problems. These all go together. We report on the frequency and severity of liver involvement in adult patients with measles. In our experience, measles in adults was not severe, and hepatitis was not correlated with severe cases of bacterial infection. Therefore, hepatitis should be regarded as a usual symptom rather than a complication of measles infection in adults. Hepatitis is a usual symptom. So maybe it's that the liver is the cause of the measles syndrome rather than the measles causing the liver syndrome. But see, they believe in viruses and we don't. Clinico-pathological study on liver dysfunction in measles. Why doesn't anybody ever talk about the liver with measles? We analyzed the clinical course of 8 patients with liver dysfunction and measles. All of the patients showed an elevation of AST, ALT, and lactate dehydrogenase. Those are liver enzymes, but no jaundice. These levels returned to normal about 3 weeks after the onset of the rash. So the rash went away before the liver problem went away that they could tell on their tests. We detected measles virus RNA in the liver specimen. Wait, you detected toxins in the liver. Shocking. By RT-PCR, which suggests that measles virus affects liver cells directly in measles. The toxin that we call measles virus is why the liver cells are affected. Wait, Taryn's asking what's the difference? The difference in what, Taryn? What's the difference between what two things? Niacin versus niacinamide. Flush niacin is the flushing form. It is nicotinic acid. Niacinamide is like a waste product, a recycling product of the niacin process, and it takes up way more energy to recycle it and make it usable. So yeah, you can always ask Kelsey more about that. Kelsey's more on this, but yeah, niacinamide is like it has to be recycled, and it requires tons of energy to do that, when you can just take flush niacin and it doesn't take energy and it just goes right into the cycle and it just gives you the benefit. And I showed on my tweet, niacinamide is known to be hepatotoxic, liver toxic. It's shown to be heart toxic. And here's a funny thing. Let's go. Let me go obesity, niacin. Here's a fun one. I went over this just because we're here. So Taryn, this is why you don't want to eat fortified flour. Everybody, you don't want to eat fortified flour. Our government does not like you. So what do they require that bread is fortified with? Oh, if you didn't know, Kelsey actually found multiple patents, and there's some research on thiamine being an insecticide. Thiamine can bind to aldehydes, but thiamine is a form of insecticide itself. So if you're taking it, remember the goal is you use it as an antidote or a crutch to help you bind with aldehydes, but the goal is to get off of it. Anything you see in fortified flour is any vitamins and minerals, iron, thiamine, mononitrate, niacinamide. They call it niacin, but it's niacinamide. It always is. The other stuff in there, you don't want it. They're trying to kill you with it. Chronic niacin overload may be involved in the increased prevalence of obesity in U.S. children. Gosh, guess what type of niacin they're talking about? To investigate niacinamide's action on glucose. Oh, here, let me get the link. So we're talking about nicotinamide. We're talking about niacinamide. This is the same stuff that Peters take, which should not surprise anyone, because Peters hate their livers and they try to do everything they possibly can to ruin their livers. And then they wonder, if you wonder why Peters are on the internet and social media and are such nasty, easily angered, no sense of humor people, it's because they ruin their livers. So let's go and look at what niacinamide does. This is a pretty crazy correlation here. The obesity prevalence among American children increased with the increasing per capita, per person niacin consumption. The increasing grain contribution to niacin due to niacin fortification, and the increasing niacin fortified ready-to-eat cereal consumption with a 10-year lag. And I'm not saying niacinamide is the only cause of obesity in this country, but the fact that they can correlate these so well is really interesting. And if we were to say niacinamide sucks away energy from your detox systems, then it starts to make sense. It's a negative input. Like, yes, you may get some niacin out of it, some vitamin B3 effect out of it, but it's sucking energy from everything else. Conclusion. What do they blame it on? The appetite stimulating effect of nicotinamide, right? It can't just be it's a poison or it's just sucking away your energy. The appetite stimulating effect of nicotinamide appears to increase oxidative stress. The appetite stimulating effect increases oxidative stress? That makes no sense. Excess niacin consumption may be a major factor in the increased obesity prevalence in U.S. children. Oh yeah, folic acid is bad too. Yeah, don't use folic acid. We only talk about folinic acid, which is typically sold in supplements as calcium folinate. And if you are eating meat and beans, you're probably getting plenty of folic acid. Look it up, because beans are like one of the highest food sources of folic acid. They're also one of the highest sources of molybdenum. Yeah, Will was saying, wow, so they add niacinamide not to give us health, but to addict us to their food so we buy more. WTF. Yeah. So this was a fun thing. I knew about this a while ago, but when I started going over the niacinamide stuff the other day, I decided to pull that up again. Okay, so that's these. Let me go here. Let me share this tab so I can close all the rest of these. Okay. Okay, so let me open up these. And this, again, I just want to show you, like some people have mentioned in those papers, that measles is a disease of malnutrition. This is just a tweet of mine. This is in the links. Measles is very commonly connected to protein energy malnutrition. Protein energy malnutrition. Not enough protein, not enough calories. That's bad. Protein energy malnutrition always includes a lack of muscle meat and total calories in the diet. Protein energy malnutrition will show low vitamin A in the blood, low serum retinol. Due to the lack of protein, protein energy malnutrition will always be directly connected to a zinc deficiency due to a lack of muscle meat in the diet. So they're not getting enough protein, they're not getting enough zinc. This is in the research too. Zinc deficiency will always show low vitamin A in the blood as well. The supposed vitamin A deficiency of measles is not due to any lack of it in the diet, it is due to the lack of muscle meat in the diet, as was shown in the high-income countries' kids with measles, where they gave them vitamin A and it did nothing because they eat enough meat. On that note, high-dose vitamin A given to kids with measles may just kill them, so don't do that. And I list here some of the other things I've gone over. Supposed diseases that are actually caused or worsened by a lack of muscle meat in the diet. Beriberi, measles, vitamin A deficiency, vitamin D deficiency. Wasn't there another one? Oh, rickets. That's the vitamin D. They want fewer people and all of us on a plant and bug-based diet. Do you understand why yet? Well, they also want us not eating as much, which is why they push all the fasting stuff too. You understand? Eat less. Eat plants, eat bugs. Then you die earlier of chronic disease. So now, here we go. The effect of protein energy malnutrition on morbidity and mortality. So this is problems caused by a disease. This is death. Due to measles at Kenyatta National Hospital, Nairobi, Kenya. A nutritional analysis revealed that children whose weight were below 80 of the Harvard median of weight for age stayed in the hospital longest and had the highest mortality rate. The ones who were the most malnourished got the sickest and died. Imagine starving children dying. Crazy, right? Patients whose weight for age was less than 60% of the Harvard median had the highest duration of hospital stays, with total patient days of 4,997 and a mean duration of stay of 4 days. The overall mortality rate was 17.5 kids per 1,000 admissions. Remember, these are starving, malnourished kids. The mortality rate was highest among marasmic children, which is, I believe, marasmus is specifically protein deficiency, with 39.6 per 1,000 admissions. Let's just go check that. I want to make sure, kwashiorkor, make sure I'm not confusing. Okay, so marasmus, severe malnutrition characterized by energy deficiency primarily caused by lack of protein and calories. And then we go kwashiorkor. core. So I didn't share it. Here we go. Let me share this. Marasmus is a form of severe malnutrition characterized by energy deficiency, primarily caused by a lack of protein and calories. So that's protein, energy, malnutrition. Then we go kwashiorkor, a form of severe protein malnutrition characterized by edema and an enlarged liver with fatty infiltrates. Wait, it's malnutrition, yet their liver is fatty. Their liver is bigger and it's fatty. Gosh, what does this mean you need protein to do for you? You need protein to detox you. And when you can't detox things, especially fat-soluble toxins, your liver makes more fat to store them because it can't detox them. What is a fat-soluble toxin that we talk a lot about here? Oh, vitamin A. And we talk about how if you don't get enough protein, the vitamin A gets stuck in your liver. What a weird coincidental pattern. You could still get fatty liver while malnourished because your liver without the protein cannot get rid of vitamin A. Okay, so let's keep going here. Okay. So we had, when they said marasmic, that was protein, that was energy deficiency, but also this is like protein, energy, malnutrition. So this is mainly energy though. With 40 per 1,000 admissions was the death rate. Children who were underweight had an overall risk of death, number of deaths of 14.3 per 1,000 admissions, while those whose weight for age was normal had a mortality rate of only 7.4 1,000. Measles is a disease of malnutrition and lack of meat. The incidence of measles is still very frequent. Well, it's Kenya. And overcrowding in developing countries only worsens the severity of this disease. How would overcrowding in developing countries worsen it? More kids, more people, less food. Okay, so now, effect of protein, energy, malnutrition on the immediate outcome of measles. Let's see. It was also observed that mortality among these children increased significantly with increasing severity of malnutrition. Deaths amongst children with severe protein, energy, malnutrition, grades 3 and 4, was very high as 90 of 199 children died, 45.2%. It's a disease of malnutrition. So the fact that I would love to see a picture of the children who are getting measles and dying before they got sick. I would love to see how skinny those kids are. Love to have that information. Here we go again. The problem of measles virus response with reference to vaccine viability, age, protein, energy, malnutrition, and malaria in the tropics. Let's see. Measles morbidity and mortality, so problems from the disease and death from the disease, in a country like Tanzania is highest between 9 and 36 months as shown by hospital statistics, let alone the fact that protein, energy, malnutrition, which makes measles more severe, is also at the highest peak in this age range. It's not a vaccine deficiency. It's not a vitamin A deficiency. It's malnutrition. And this is why the kids in high-income countries and who eat enough don't die of it. Okay, so now let's go. Let's do this. Oh, and now let's go into one of my favorite toxins. You wouldn't expect to find toxin patterns in this, would you? Evaluation of serum copper level dynamics in measles patients. So let me take a wild guess at what we're going to find. Both in the acute period of measles and during convalescence recovery, a statistically significant higher copper level in blood serum in comparison to the control group was observed. Copper toxicity again, shocking. Now, I'll go over, there's not a lot of evidence of zinc deficiency in measles. But we know if there's copper toxicity, there's a relative zinc deficiency. Okay, that's always there together. So what do we have here? Copper to zinc ratio in measles patients. In the acute period of the disease, when you are dumping toxins out of your skin so fast that you get a rash and you have other symptoms too, a significant and highly significant increase in copper to zinc ratio takes place. So the copper's going up way faster than the zinc. You're getting way too much copper to not enough zinc. In the acute phase of the disease, what might the body be pushing out through the skin that's in the blood to try to not be poisoned? Maybe copper too. Boy, don't we see vitamin A toxicity and copper toxicity come together all the time? We do. I see it all the time on all your labs. Many of you who have done labs with me or our other practitioners, vitamin A toxicity and copper toxicity are there together way more than they're ever not going to be together. So we have copper toxicity. Okay. Now let's go back to here and we will go zinc. Now, this is not, like I said, I don't have a lot of evidence, but we saw that copper goes way up and zinc doesn't. So the copper-zinc ratio goes up. So zinc supplementation as an adjunct therapy in children with measles accompanied by pneumonia. These are starving kids. A double-blind randomized controlled trial. So they gave zinc acetate twice a day for 6 days. They gave 20 milligrams of zinc as zinc acetate twice daily for 6 days. So 40 milligrams of this is so crappy a form of zinc, they bound zinc to acetic acid. Brilliant. That should work. Or a placebo. So 6 days of zinc. They're trying to undo years of malnutrition with 6 days of zinc. Funny thing here. What do I tell you that causes low vitamin A in the blood? Lack of protein, lack of zinc. A high proportion of the children had low serum retinol, low blood vitamin A, and zinc concentrations. So they are zinc deficient. High proportion of them. They were malnourished on protein, they had low vitamin A. They were malnourished on zinc, they had low zinc. They gave them a crappy form of zinc, which sometimes I wonder if this is by design, right? Because they don't want people to start thinking that zinc works. So they gave them the crappiest form of zinc they could. And they didn't see any results. They say children with severe measles accompanied by pneumonia treated with antibiotics and vitamin A did not show any additional benefit from also receiving a zinc supplement. Why are they treating a virus condition with antibiotics? You ever wonder why? So I'm going to explain to you why. When doctors would say, or your mom would say, or somebody would tell you, well, antibiotics don't kill viruses. But all of us know who were sick and took antibiotics for a viral condition that it often made us feel better right away. Remember that? We took antibiotics for a virus condition and we felt better. And then they'll be like, oh yeah, it can help you feel better, but it's not killing the virus. And I was always like, why is it making me feel better then? Why did my buddy get antibiotics for a tooth infection and he said all of his other health problems went away for a while? What's the connection? Antibiotics shut down your bile production. Yes, they do affect your gut bacteria, but they also shut down your bile production. If you stopped pumping out bile, that was what was leaking into your system, causing all your symptoms, you would feel better because it's the toxic bile leaking into your bloodstream that is the cause of all those symptoms. So if you stop that, you feel better. And then when the antibiotic effect wears off, you start pumping out bile again, and the symptoms come back. Unless it was a short-term detox like measles. That's a short-term detox. So if you ride it out, You take the antibiotics and you ride it out, and the measles doesn't come up again. Well, partially you've also damaged your liver and you've slowed down your detox. So you may not get to that detox process again. Okay. So they didn't get any benefit from a zinc supplement. Oh, 6 days of a shit zinc supplement. Oh, wow. You really proved something here. Now let's go into the next one. Ferritin. So for those of you who haven't seen my ferritin live stream, there's a couple of things we're going to show here. One, they say that if you give the measles vaccine, it's the same as a measles infection. That's an interesting statement. So we have changes in the hemogram. This would be like the CBC, the complete blood count on your blood tests. And in the laboratory parameters, indicative of iron metabolism in mild viral infection. So let me summarize the ferritin live stream for you. Ferritin is one of many potential markers of how much bile you are leaking into your blood. So if you have a normal ferritin, does that mean you're not leaking bile into your blood? No, that's just not showing up for you. If you have high ferritin in your blood, that means you are leaking bile into your blood. Ferritin, your body tries to get rid of ferritin by putting it into the bile. Ferritin should not be leaking into your blood unless you have leaks. Okay? Okay. With previous parental consent, 120 eutrophic. I want to make sure I know exactly what eutrophic means here. Promoting nutrition. Modern medicine does that? No. I'll let Zendog confirm that. No. People on Grant's forum called Grant mentally ill. So, promoting nutrition. That's weird. Eutrophic medicine, promoting nutrition. Okay. With previous parental consent, 120 promoting nutrition infants received vaccination with attenuated measles virus or a combination of measles, mumps, and rubella viruses as a model of mild viral infection. So they're giving them a vaccine and they're calling it a model of mild viral infection. Okay, even though that doesn't exist. So if they're trying to mimic a mild viral infection and we say that diseases are toxic bile leaking into the bloodstream, what happens? Do we have any indicators of increased bile leaking into the bloodstream? Serum iron and transferrin saturation decreased significantly, whereas mean corpuscular volume, free erythrocyte protoporphyrin, and serum ferritin were significantly increased. They are leaking more bile into their blood from the measles vaccine. It is damaging their liver. This is called a liver injury. All these but protoporphyrin recovered by day 30. So let's go. Do we have a study that confirms the rise in ferritin as a marker of liver damage of the jab? Anemia of a mild viral infection, the measles vaccine as a model. Let me just say this here. For those of you who have chronic low ferritin, chronic anemia, and you eat enough iron from meat, red meat especially, or you take iron supplements and you don't have heavy menstrual bleeding, ladies. So what I'm saying is if you are eating enough iron or even taking iron and you're not bleeding heavily, yet you can't ever seem to fix your ferritin or your other iron markers, it's a liver problem. We can fix this. We just fixed it in Kelsey. I went over her labs. I think in the seminar study group, Kelsey had chronic anemia, low ferritin, and we got hers back into the normal range. We can fix your low ferritin. To define the hematologic blood-related changes during a mild viral infection, 93 infants were immunized with live attenuated measles virus and studied prospectively at 0, 4, 9, 14, 21, and 30 days. Serum iron and percentage saturation of transferrin decreased, whereas serum ferritin increased significantly. Leaking bile into the blood, yet again. Okay. Toxic metals. This will be fun. There's not much on this. I just wanted to hit on some interesting concepts that we go over. So, association of arsenic exposure with measles antibody titers in U.S. children, influence of sex and serum folate levels. Basically what they're going to say, so low serum folate had low measles antibody titers with higher urinary arsenic levels. The more toxic you are, the slower you detox and the less you are able to deal with toxins. So they have low serum folate. They had lower proteins that the body makes to bind to toxins. And they had higher toxins, higher arsenic. Okay. Nutritional status may be essential in mitigating or reducing the toxic consequences of arsenic exposure. Shocking, right? Okay, now, somebody posted, oh, wait, did I have this one? Where's the Twitter post? Oh, man. So, let me go see if I can find it. Hold on, I want this Twitter post. Okay. I guess, let me see if I put this on my thing. Hold on, let me refresh this because I guess I didn't save it. Okay, so let me bring these two up because I just thought it was hilarious. I did kind of go over this post. So Ald Hisla. Wait, where is it? Ald Hisla, 45. This guy posts research. I'm assuming it's a guy. This guy posts so much research, just shredding apart virus theory and germ theory and all. He just posts so much stuff. So I just want to hit on this one post before I go into another one. Does the measles virus exist? Let's break down the first pivotal experiment claimed to have isolated the measles virus, published in 1954. Here's the paper. Propagation in tissue cultures of cytopathogenic agents from patients with measles. Okay. No virus particles were observed. Comparable results occurred without the addition of a presumably infected specimen. Mice did not develop any symptoms when injected with the alleged virus. How? They're injected with the virus and they didn't get the measles. Sorry, did I not share it? There we go, Joe. Got it. Sorry, so this is the post from Ald Hisla. The link is, Joe, actually, let me put this in the chat. So there's the Twitter, this is the Twitter link for this post, and this is the second part. So anyway, I want to give a shout out to Ald Hisla and then somebody else. So this is this right here is the measles hoax thread. I'll link this one too. Oh, this is his Substack. So I need to subscribe to his Substack too. I haven't done that yet. So yeah, I'm going to read this one now. Okay. He posts so much stuff. It's hard to keep up with, and it just destroys all of it. Okay, so this guy did something. So this is another person on this thread. Truth Tate did this. He said, now I don't like AI. I don't like Grok. I think it's all just a way to make people stupider. But this is funny, so I'm going to read it. My suggestion is to take your posts and run it through Grok, asking to explain it like you are talking to a fifth grader. I'd recommend taking a look at my following posts below and correcting anything you deem necessary. So I'm going to read these because these are hilarious. All right. So this is AI explaining Aldhisla's posts to someone like a fifth grader, like they were a fifth grader. All right. Let's imagine we're detectives trying to solve a mystery about something called measles, but with a twist. We're going to look at it like viruses might not even be real. A long time ago, people thought measles happened because of tiny invisible things called viruses. But here's the thing. Nobody has really ever proven these viruses exist. Back in 1924, some smart people tried looking at stuff from sick people, like their blood or spit, under microscopes to find these germs. Guess what? They couldn't find anything no matter how hard they looked. Still, they thought there has to be something super tiny making people sick. So they made up the idea of a virus without ever seeing it. They started doing experiments like putting stuff from sick people into monkeys, but it was a mess. Sometimes the monkeys got a little sick, sometimes they didn't, and it was all super confusing, like trying to play a game with no rules. They even tried injecting healthy people with regular blood, not from sick people. And some of those folks got rashes that looked like measles anyway. So maybe it wasn't some mysterious germ causing it. For years, scientists kept talking about this measles virus without ever finding it. They'd say, if someone gets sick, that's proof the virus is there. But that's like saying if your toy is missing, a dragon took it. It doesn't make sense without real proof. In 1954, a scientist named John Enders tried growing something in a lab dish and said, I think I found the virus. He saw cells acting funny and decided that meant a virus was there. But then other scientists noticed the same funny stuff happening even without adding anything from sick people. Like the cells were just being weird all by themselves. By the 1950s, even with super strong microscopes, they couldn't spot any virus. Later in 1961, they saw little dots in sick cells and said, these must be it, but these dots could have been anything. They found similar ones in healthy stuff too. It's like pointing at a speck of dust and calling it a magic bug. On top of that, people can get rashes and feel sick, like what they call measles, from things that aren't germs at all. Pay attention here. For example, a medicine called Salvarsan can make your skin red and itchy, looking just like measles. Salvarsan is arsenic. So maybe what we call measles isn't from a virus. It could just be your body reacting to stuff like that, or detoxing. Since no one's really ever proven viruses are real, it's like they've been chasing a ghost story all along. Maybe it's time to think about this mystery in a whole new way. Now, I think that's enough. This was from Truth Tate, and this is under Aldhisla's post. So anyway, I thought that was hilarious. So yeah, Truth Tate, I'll just go follow them too. Okay. So that was association. So more arsenic, less of a antibody titer, less of a poison protection response against measles. Okay. So arsphenamine. So let me expand on something here. So arsphenamine is Salvarsan. Salvarsan, or compound 606. Interesting numbers to choose. Is an antibiotic drug, so it kills stuff. Antibio is anti against life. It's antibiotic, it's against life. That was introduced in the beginning of the 1910s. Who was the main guy behind it? Paul Ehrlich. Definitely don't go look at the early life of Paul Ehrlich. Don't do that. But also, Paul Ehrlich was sponsored by the Rockefellers, and it was Simon Flexner, who was Abraham Flexner's brother, the guy who wrote the Flexner Report that destroyed natural medicine. So let me make sure. Simon Flexner was a friend of Paul Ehrlich. Abraham Flexner was Simon Flexner's brother, who wrote the Flexner Report, which destroyed homeopathic and natural medicine schools in the United States on behalf of the Rockefellers, who are behind conventional garbage medicine. So I want you to understand Paul Ehrlich's pals. Okay. The drug that Paul Ehrlich worked on before methylene blue was Salvarsan, an arsenic compound, and he called it a magic bullet. What do they also call methylene blue? MB, magic bullet. It is all a psyop to poison you. Okay? So anyway, just wanted to, birds of a feather flock together. Here it is. Arsphenamine was first synthesized in 1907 in Paul Ehrlich's lab by Alfred Bertheim. Salvarsan was the first organic antisyphilitic and a great improvement over the inorganic mercury compounds that had been used previously. So I remember I've said this joke before. My dad told me when I was talking about meds being toxic, my dad told me once, he said, well, yeah, mercury was great at treating syphilis if it didn't kill you first. And that was just kind of a tongue-in-cheek joke. I got it. But so they went from treating syphilis with mercury to arsenic. Okay. Some of the side effects attributed to Salvarsan included rashes, liver damage. Wait, didn't we just go over measles has a rash and liver damage and risks of life and limb? Measles can kill malnourished children. Could some of the measles, we see higher copper in measles. Is arsenic potentially a problem in measles? Possibly. It could be arsenic detoxing through the skin. And then we have retinoic acid, vitamin A, potentially coming out through the skin. Because the symptoms match 13-cis-retinoic acid, which is Accutane symptoms. Oh, actually, Zendog was saying, crazy hearing mercury jokes from Dennis. Well, my dad stopped doing mercury fillings 15 or 20 years before he retired. So he was legit able to make jokes like that because he had stopped poisoning people with mercury fillings. That's a whole nother story. And this paper doesn't specifically mention measles, but I thought this was interesting that they studied arsenic values in various skin diseases. Wow, look at this family connection. Arsenic poisoning is known to produce or to be, and this is an old paper, so there's probably a little more, let me look at when it was. Do they have the year on this one? Let me go to the very end. Let's look at these other papers that they're quoting. 1958, 56. Yeah, so this is probably a paper that, here it is. It's over here, sorry. 1960. Let's go back up here. Arsenic and skin diseases. Arsenic poisoning is known to produce or to be associated with exfoliative dermatitis, so that's peeling of the skin, like desquamation, which is peeling. Desquamation is another symptom of vitamin A toxicity. Pigmentation, keratoses, that's like actinic keratoses, those little bumps on the back of your arm, so little bumps. Squamous cell epithelioma, herpes zoster, so shingles, and rashes, clinically suggestive of lichen planus. Furthermore, particularly with regard to malignancies, there have been suggestions by Anderson and Montgomery and Weissman that there may be an etiological or root cause of disease connection between arsenic in the skin and the development of basal cell epitheliomata. But similar acute and chronic skin lesions may appear in the absence of any abnormal exposure to arsenic. So you don't have to have arsenic to cause these same things. So could arsenic be connected to measles? Possibly. Could it not be connected to measles in certain cases? Yes. Are skin diseases just an expression of toxicity coming out of the skin? Yes. Could they look similar from different toxins? Yes. So, normal skin contains a small amount of arsenic, and it is conceivable that a variation in this arsenic content may result from dietetic, like for those of you who are not cleaning your rice properly, you should go watch my live stream on how to clean your rice if you're going to eat rice. And it is conceivable that a variation in this arsenic content may result from dietetic or metabolic factors. In view of this, it seemed of interest to investigate arsenic values in the skin of patients who were suffering from eruptions, which were apparently idiopathic. They don't know the cause, but which resembled those characteristic of arsenic poisoning. Wow, so there's a pattern of arsenic coming out in the skin and skin diseases. Again, we have another toxic metal. Blood lead concentrations and antibody levels to measles, mumps, and rubella among U.S. children. The present study estimated the association between blood lead concentrations and antigen-specific antibody levels to measles, so toxin reactions to measles, mumps, and rubella, in a nationally representative sample of 7,000 U.S. children. Let's see. In the adjusted models, children with blood lead concentrations between 1 and 5 micrograms per deciliter, so that these are higher, had an 11% lower anti-measles toxin binder and a 6% lower anti-mumps toxin binder compared to children with lower blood lead concentrations below 1 microgram per deciliter. The odds of a seronegative anti-measles antibody level was approximately twofold greater. So the vaccine didn't raise their antibodies, was 2 times greater for children with blood lead concentrations between 1 and 5 compared with children with blood lead concentrations less than 1. They aren't responding to the toxicity that was just injected in them. You know, remember how I said people who never get sick, like they're toxic. We know they're toxic, but they never get sick. The more toxic people are, the more tired and worn out their immune system, which is their cleanup system, gets, and they can't even do the right responses, which would be colds or flus as a detox system. So remember, with colds and flus, it's like a bell curve kind of thing. You can think of there's a peak in the middle and there's 2 low on the side. So think of there's people who are so healthy that they don't need to have the detox cycle of getting sick. They're so healthy. Then there's the other side, which is people who are so toxic, like the cancer person I mentioned. They don't get sick anymore because they can't even mount the detox response. And then there's people in the middle who get sick. So just because if you are out there and you're listening to this and you're like, well, I don't ever get sick, but you know you have health problems, you're not the really healthy person. Don't try to like, oh, I must be so healthy because I never get sick. No. If you have other health problems, you are not really healthy. If you're here listening to this, you're probably not super healthy, or you're getting there, or you may have gotten there through this process. But people who are not getting sick are generally quite toxic. Okay? And then as I said, when we get them better, they start getting colds or flus because those are the detox processes. Okay? So the more we see more lead, less antibody response, less poison protection protein response, more lead, less poison protection response. These are kids. And if you have these toxins in your blood, it either means you've been actively exposed to them in the last 30 days, or you're actively detoxing them. Well, Houndjog, you're getting less toxic by the day if you're having your symptoms go. Houndjog said she's toxic. Well, she's obviously getting less toxic because she's having so many things getting better. So that's your sign. So yes, you're still toxic. None of us are going to escape toxicity in this world. So it's really just a constant fight, and we will get better. Okay, so that was toxicity related stuff. Oh, and this last thing. I just wanted to go over this last thing because some people out there think manganese is good for them. There's a certain joker out there who thinks he understands minerals really well, and he's like, what about manganese? And oh God. And these lunatics with their anhydroretinol nonsense. Poisons of a feather flock together. Just look at this title. Manganese mineralization of pathogenic viruses as a universal vaccine platform. What does that implicate manganese as? Good for you or bad for you? Remember, retinoic acid has been studied as a vaccine adjuvant in like 15 studies. So they add retinoic acid to the jabs to give you a higher immune response. You see more antibodies. What are antibodies? Poison-binding proteins. So they start adding manganese to pathogenic viruses, and then they get a universal toxin response. Biomimetic viral mineralization. Wait, mimics stuff in a live system? Viral toxin, mineralization, binding a mineral to a toxin to mimic the way it is in the body, improves viral vaccine stability and immunogenicity, your immune system recognizing it as a poison. So it stimulates your immune system in a bad way. You don't want to stimulate your immune system. Using inorganic metals such as calcium, aluminum, or iron. Remember, aluminum, that's always good for you, right? Wow, they can use calcium and iron. What are we constantly working on? Calcium and iron, fixing them. Thus, manganese mineralization in pathogenic viruses provides a rapid and universal strategy for generating an emergency vaccine in response to emerging viruses. What's the year of this? 2023. Oh, I'm so glad that they found this just in time for the next measles and bird flu and all that stuff. I'm so glad. Yeah. So look at it's funny that things they add to jabs, aluminum, mercury. What are other things we work against? Tons of people have excess calcium in their system. Tons of people have excess iron in their system. Tons of people have excess copper in their system. And manganese. Do you know manganese has been used in studies to cause cholestasis or toxic leaky bile? And manganese does accumulate very well in the liver. If you think manganese is good for you, good luck with that. Good luck. So, yeah. Rory asked, anything to take to help alcohol withdrawal? Yes, Rory, you should get in the Love Your Liver program, and you should read Kelsey's flush niacin articles. I just went over flush niacin was supposed to be the 13th step in Alcoholics Anonymous. Bill Wilson wanted it to be part of Alcoholics Anonymous, but the rest of the board members said no. They wouldn't allow it because they weren't doctors. Because doctors know jack and shit about nutrition. Oh, you need to be a doctor. Okay, so I'm going to close this out. I'm at 1 o'clock already. I got to get to my sorry, I was starting to get a little low in the screen there. I got to get to my inner circle. So basically, here's what we've got, right? We've got, let me move this to the right way. And you guys can stay in the chat afterwards. The chat will exist for a while afterwards. Anyway, measles is a disease of malnutrition, particularly a lack of meat. It is a detox response. So people who are getting the pokies to stop that are potentially creating more conditions in the future. Hopefully, I said things well enough in this video that it doesn't get taken down. If it does, I'm on Rumble. You'll be able to find it there. And yeah. Sarah, if you're watching this, we need to download this as soon as it's done. Yeah. Or Joe, if we have a recording of this, we need to take this and have it as soon as possible. So anyway, I'll see you later, sweetie. She said, see you later, Dad, in the chat. And yeah, so, and don't do high dose vitamin A for your kids. If you need to show this to your family and friends because they're like going to do cod liver oil or whatever. Actually, let me show you let me get my Twitter thread on cod liver oil. Oh my goodness. Let me share this, and I'll share the screen. Let me go find it. Okay, so we should be on here. Oh, it's got me live. I'm live right now. Isn't that amazing? Why are you not showing me my search? How do I get to see my search? Anyway, let me see if I can find it just by doing cod liver oil. Nope. Hold on, I'll get it for you. I can do this. We can do it live. I'm going to my other screen so I can search there and I'll see if it doesn't do the same thing. Okay. Yeah, so people who are going to give their kids cod liver oil, I'm putting this in the chat right now. The cod liver oil is toxic. And just so you know, make sure they read it because Weston Price himself said that. Oh, wait, I have the link now. I can put it up in here so you guys can see it. So you see what it looks like. Weston Price himself in the thread, in some journal papers and in his own writings, said that cod liver oil could be toxic and it could increase allergic diseases. Even Weston Price knew this. And yet Weston Price followers ignore all of it. And they just go, oh, it's only supplement vitamin A that's bad. Food-based vitamin A is totally innocent and it's only good for you and you can't overdo it. Oh, no, you can absolutely overdo it. And then you start reading about all the other toxic crap in cod liver oil. And then you realize that big people up top in the Weston Price organization were doing the fermented cod liver oil. And then lots of them seem to be getting, too many of them seem to be getting brain cancer. Well, if you look at fermented cod liver oil, doesn't exist. It's called rancid cod liver oil. And if you look at rancid PUFAs and rancid fish oil is related to brain cancer. And then if you look at toxic vitamin A and toxic vitamin D in it and all the other fat soluble toxins that would be stored in cod liver oil. Let me tell you another name for cod liver oil so you understand it. Fish fatty liver juice. Cod liver oil, fish liver, fatty liver juice. It's fatty liver. That's what you're getting, oil out of a liver. So you're basically juicing a fatty liver and you're eating the fat from that juice. This whole tallow fad, man. Where do cows concentrate their fat soluble toxins, folks? In their fat. So you're going to go and then take that fat and cook it. So oxidize it, which tends to make a lot of things into more toxic stuff. And I don't know if you know this, but tallow companies are advertising that their tallow is high in vitamins A and D. Ooh. And then you have, they're not going to be using organic tallow in restaurants. They're going to be using CAFO, total garbage, antibiotic, toxic cattle fat. And it's going to be soaking up in those French fries. And they're going to wonder why they don't feel as good as they thought they would. They'll have a honeymoon phase, but it's going to be bad. You don't want to eat body fat of animals very much because it's where fat soluble toxins are stored. It's as simple as that. Don't eat fish fatty liver juice. Don't eat tallow. Okay. So that is that. We're going to wrap it up. So if you have any questions, I'm not going to be here any longer. If you did super chats, Grant, well, let me get to the super chats. No more super chats. No new super chats. Let me get to those. Sorry if you left already. If you left already, I can't exactly apologize. Sorry about that. But let me do these super chats because they happened, and don't send any more. I will not answer any more today. Save them for next time. Where was it? I think Joe already put them on my, oh, there it is. Oh no, I got the Hound Jog one. Will, did you retract your super chats? Did you take them off? I'm looking for them right now. If you took them off, we can do them next time. I don't see them. Joe put them up. Let me see. Okay. Joe, did you get the other one? Okay, so here's one of them. Danny asks, thank you for the super chat, Will. What is the least harmful method to bulk would be for an undertype? I am so tired of being victim weight and I want to push a little bit. He's been on low vitamin A for a year, a bit more. Okay. So Yeah, I see that one. Will had another one. If you remember what it was, Will, you can post it and we'll go over that one. Okay. I just did a podcast yesterday with a gentleman whose daughter had childhood leukemia. And he was saying that the oncologists were saying they just don't want her to lose. They didn't even want her to maintain weight. They were like, we can't have her losing weight. Maintaining is not even good enough. We want her to gain weight as they're doing chemo. That was their goal. And so this oncologist is telling him as a father, look, if she wakes up at 1 a.m. and she wants chocolate cake, you give her chocolate cake. And the dad's like we've seen all this research on how sugar feeds cancer. Well, sugar turns into aldehydes, and aldehydes are a big cause of cancer. That's the connection. And he's like, why would I do that? Like, do they even care? Do they even know this? They're just like, keep the child from losing weight. And I explained to him in the podcast, which hasn't come out yet, but undertypes, their liver is in a bad state. So if cancer doctors see a child losing weight or not even maintaining their weight or barely maintaining their weight, they know the liver's gone bad. So they just start shoving food in there because that's the only metric they can affect. They're like, oh, if we feed them enough, they won't lose weight. Doesn't matter if you feed them total garbage. It's like how doctors tell you to drink until your pee is clear. They just don't want you dehydrated. So they tell you to overdrink. They just don't want the child getting chemo to lose weight. So they tell them to eat trash. Because what else makes people fat in America today? Well, they eat trash and they get bigger. So we can do that with kids too, right? Doesn't that make sense? So, okay. If you haven't read the over and under type stuff in the Love Your Liver program, you should. That's where you should start. Sometimes I hate saying this in public because people are going to do the wrong thing with it. Generally, if you are a good weight, this is not you right now, Danny. If you're a good weight or you're overweight and you're doing this, you should not be adding extra fat, like isolated fat, to your diet, or you should be doing it only minimally, like to cook with. Okay. Minimal added fats. I'm not talking about fat in foods. Like I had a handful of almonds yesterday. Do they have fat in them? Yeah. Am I worried about the fat in a handful of almonds? No. Am I worried about the fat in my beef? No. Do I try to buy really fatty beef? No, I don't do that either, but I also don't worry about the fat in my beef. So if the fat is in the food, I'm not that worried about it. I'm not concerned. Because I'm a good weight and I tend towards overtype, so I tend to gain weight. So I would tend to not add more fats to my day. Okay. Undertypes. I just did the show with Beth Martins on Friday. Beth is an undertype. And when Beth started the program, she was pushing things a little hard. And she was like, I'm losing weight. And I was like, here's the solution for, first of all, I told her don't push too hard because that's what all newbies do. They always push too hard. Oh, if you're an undertype and you push too hard, you're going to lose weight because it's the toxicity that is why you're underweight. So if you push the detox too hard and you have too much of the toxicity coming out, you get the same problem you have. You make the problem you have worse. Almost all of us who have been doing this, we know the problems we came into the program with until they're gone. If you push detox too hard, the problems you had when you came into the program get worse for a while. You have to get rid of the toxicity first and not make yourself suffer. I mean, you can make yourself suffer. Nobody can stop you. But if somebody comes into the program, they're like, I have this problem and I was doing the program and it got worse. I'm like, stop pushing so hard. It's the toxicity that caused the problem. And you're just dumping too much toxicity out of your liver too fast. It's going in your system. You get this more of the same. Okay. So undertypes. Here's the simple thing for undertypes. I don't want undertypes losing weight. But that doesn't mean to eat shit. It means that undertypes, you want to figure out what is a good diet for you that is not pushing detox too hard. I don't want you eating 5,000 calories. Like there, okay, first of all, Danny, there, I don't know if Danny's a male or a female. I'm just saying there's people undertypes out there who can eat 5,000 calories a day and they gain a pound or two. So they went from like 2,500 calories a day or 3,000 calories a day to maintain their weight. And they try to do 5,000 to gain some weight and they gain a pound or two. They just added all that food that now has to be detoxed to gain a little bit of weight, which may just be impacted poop in their guts. That might be their weight gain. It's just more food in your guts. That's what it might be. So is that worth it to make your liver process all this extra stuff to gain an extra pound or two, which may just be poop? No, it's not worth it at all. So first of all, I want somebody eating enough to maintain their weight, doing the general love your liver stuff. Like if too much soluble fiber foods like beans or certain whole grains cause you to dump too much and you feel bad, then you might need to do something like less fiber, like rice. Make sure to prep your rice right. Like watch that live stream that I did. So you can adjust your fiber up and down with like rice versus different whole grains versus beans. But then if you've got your diet pretty good and you're having trouble maintaining your weight, then you add the minimal effective dose of added fats to not lose weight. This is exactly what I told Beth. I'm like, first of all, make sure you're not detoxing too hard. Secondly, you're trying to find the smallest amount of fat that you can add to your diet to have you not losing weight anymore or to gain back the couple of pounds that she lost. And she was like, this is great. And I said, I kind of go over all this in the program, but a lot of people miss it at the start, and that's normal. And I didn't mind helping Beth because Beth has brought so many people to the program, and it's just like, and we did that show together. It's things where I was like, just here's what you do. I wasn't mad about it. So that's, we are not trying, okay, under types. If you are chronically underweight and you chronically have trouble gaining weight, that is a liver problem. That does not go away overnight. You do not just get to bulk. You trying to bulk will make your problems worse, most likely. You need to maintain the weight, fix your liver, and then like other people see on the program, at some point when your liver's doing better, you will start gaining weight and good weight and holding on to it. That's how this works. It's like with fixing the low iron and the low ferritin over time. I have plenty of women who I've talked to who they're like, I don't have symptoms of anemia. I don't feel bad. And I'm like, okay, well, your labs look like you do, but they're like, I don't feel bad. So I said, okay, then just stay the course. And as we get your liver better, you will eventually, your ferritin will come up into the range we want it, which is 30 to 70. And that's what happens. So I have to tell undertypes, your undertypes, underweight is, if we had to pick like a phenotype, a physical expression of liver problems, normal weight would be the least bad. Overweight would be the next step worse. And then underweight would be the next step worse after that. So underweight is the worst of like the weight ways that you could assess it. Underweight is the worst state to be in. Chronically underweight is the worst state. And that shows in more on longevity studies. People who are underweight actually die the soonest, but there's so few of them that people don't really care. And they just go, being obese or overweight is bad for how long you live, because they're looking at the biggest group, which is smart. You want to address the biggest group of people possible. And underweight, I'm sure if you're a practitioner out there or you've worked with people on health, the underweight people are the hardest to fix because their liver is the most messed up. This is not a judgment. This is the way it is. So your goal is to maintain weight. And as you fix the liver, then you'll start noticing that you can gain good weight on the same amount of calories. And you start holding on to it and you don't have to struggle to eat more food to keep it on. So no, there is no magical bulking thing that I can do that wouldn't make your liver worse. So it's just minimal amount of add. So you want a good diet, first of all, that works for you, that isn't pushing detox too hard. And then you figure out the minimal effective dose of added fats to keep your weight on. But you're not at the point where you can gain weight yet. Undertypes take the longest to fix. That's just the way it is. That's why a lot of Accutane people are like underweight as adults. Accutane really jacks up the liver. And so they become an undertype. The overtype to undertype, let me explain the progression again. Okay, so imagine somebody's a normal weight, right? Their liver's doing okay. They made it to adulthood, their liver's doing okay. Then they become an alcoholic, which is a poison and damages your liver. What is the first direction that when people start drinking too much, right? The freshman 15, when people start drinking too much alcohol, what do they tend to do? They get puffy and they gain weight. That's the normal progression. That's people start drinking, they gain weight. You don't see people when they first start drinking lose weight. That happens later. So they start drinking, they gain weight. They become an overtype. And then as they progress onward and their liver becomes more and more damaged, they eventually become undertypes, where you see the long-term alcoholics with the skinny arms and the skinny legs and the pooch belly that's like hard because their liver is hard and they got intramesenteric fat, and it's just a bad way. But they start losing weight, and then oftentimes they're just drinking their calories all day. So you can see the progression of normal to overweight to underweight. It doesn't, you could skip, like people could take Accutane and just skip the overtype completely and go from normal. They were relatively healthy as a kid, but they had some acne and they damaged their liver so bad that all of a sudden they go underweight and they can never gain that weight back because they never fix their liver, which is what we do here. So I know that was a long explanation, but there is no easy fix for undertypes. You just need to stay the course and eat enough fat that you don't lose weight. But you're not trying to gain weight with extra fat. Don't do that either, because then you're just putting even more load on your liver from all the fat. Fat causes liver damage, so we don't want to put in too much. But this is something I've seen with undertypes. They need to eat a good diet and then add a bit of fat to make sure they don't lose weight. Minimal effective dose. And it's probably better that you do something like an organic refined oil. Avocado could be one. There's other ones. You can find organic refined olive oil. Maybe Kelsey can share that sometime. She found one that seems to work. But for normal types, for normal types and overtypes, you don't need added fats except to cook, like to actually like not stick to the pan, which takes very, very little. Or you can cook with water. Undertypes seem to need some fats. That's it. So, Will, I'm going to have to get to your question. All right, here it is. Okay, sorry. Oh, also, Will's just saying thank you. So super chat from Will. Thank you again. He said, also from me, thanks to you and Kelsey for the niacin recommendation. No peeling or blistering on my sunburn, and it's healing extremely fast. And then he put a smiley face. So what happened was on Twitter, Will loves to just post all sorts of stuff on Twitter. And he was saying that he had done, I think, the Spurdy lamp again. And he had it on. This is what I remember, Will, you can correct me, but you had it on warming up like 10 feet away from himself. And I don't know how long the warm up was, but you basically got a little bit of a sunburn from it, which happens. And so be real careful of your eyes with the Spurdy. Make sure you wear the goggles. Like Kelsey got a little bit of an eye issue from not wearing the goggles. Will burned himself. It's a sun lamp. Okay. So it's a sun lamp. It can burn things. Like people are like, these are dangerous. And it's like, no, I mean, your stove is dangerous too. Like we use things in this life that are dangerous. If you don't use them correctly, like, right, knives are dangerous. We use knives every day. People are like, I'm never going to don't use knives because they can cut people. Well, have fun with that, right? So you can damage your eyes with a sun lamp. You can burn your skin with a sun lamp. Just like don't stare at the sun and don't stay in the sun too long, especially if you're really toxic. So anyway, Will got a bit of a burn. I don't know if Kelsey saw it, but I told Kelsey about it and she was like, oh, flush niacin. And so I went on there and I made a comment, take some flush niacin. And he goes, okay. And he took it and he's saying that he is healing much faster from the burn. And I've explained here before. Oh, sorry. He's saying, Doc, I was using an extra powered grow lamp with 4 bulbs, his do-it-yourself lamp. It's very dangerous. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you jack up the horsepower, you make it more risky. You may have a shorter tanning session, but it does become more risky. Yeah, you jack up the power. He says, first time I used it, I burned in 2 minutes. Well, you're getting less toxic, so you'll burn less fast. So please be careful, Will. We like you around here. Don't burn yourself too bad, okay? And I don't advise burning just to get some vitamin D. So just adjust your distance from it, adjust your time and all that stuff. But anyway, so niacin. I've been over this before. I believe that the redness and the heat of a sunburn is actually retinaldehyde, another aldehydes building up in your skin. Okay? This is important. We're going to go somewhere with this. So let's say, so you turn the retinol, which is bound to fatty acids in your skin, the retinol palmitate and other retinol esters, they get stored in your subcutaneous fat and in your skin. When you oxidize them, which is, oh my gosh, what does sunlight do? What does UV light do to these things? It oxidizes them, which puts them one more step down the pathway. So it kind of acts like ALDH. No, I'm sorry, it acts like ADH, but it moves the retinaldehyde, the retinol into retinaldehyde. And I believe that retinaldehyde, when it's stuck, is sunburn, the redness and the burning. So what did Will do? He had the burn. The retinaldehyde was not moving further along the pathway. He took flush niacin, nicotinic acid. What does flush niacin or nicotinic acid do? It gives your detox enzymes, specifically ADH and ALDH, which processes aldehydes, the gasoline that they need to do their job. That's what it does. So Will may not have had enough gas to run his ALDH or selenium or molybdenum or whatever, all the things that play into that. So he wasn't moving stuff along. So he took some flush niacin, gave his ALDH the gasoline it needed, processes the aldehydes, the burn goes away. This sometimes I don't want to pat myself on the back. What I really think about is, why didn't other people figure this out before? Why am I the guy to do it? I don't know. I'll do it. I'm here to do it. I just don't understand why other people didn't figure it out. Boggles my mind. Why did God give me these gifts? I don't know. So, a little quick explanation of aldehydes and sunburn. So if you are getting burned very easily, if you have very sensitive eyes to the sun or light, or if you get burned very easily in the sun or in UV light, you are very toxic and you should not do that. As you get less toxic, you will burn less and your eyes will become less sensitive. So that is one of many potential markers of your toxicity level in your skin and your eyes. So don't hurt yourself. Don't try to detox faster by overdoing light in your eyes or overdoing light on your skin where you're causing damage. That doesn't help anything. Do the right amount. Don't cause yourself more problems than you need. Same thing with like eating soluble fiber. Don't eat too much and make yourself feel like crap. Find the right amount for you. This goes with all the things we talk about. The Goldilocks dose. Not too hot, not too cold. We want it just right. Okay. So, that's all I have. That's calling measles, calling out the measles BS. Don't do vitamin A. I'm personally not ever going to get poked. That's my stance on it. And feed your kids enough meat. Here's a quick little funny story. Julie told me her child would only eat, back when they were in Australia, her child would only eat, her son would only eat hot dogs and ice cream. She seriously tried. People will say, well, just starve them. Don't feed it to him for a couple days. They'll come around. She said she didn't feed him for 3 days and the kid was just not going to eat hot dogs or ice cream. That was it. So she goes to the doctor and, well, I can't get him to eat something. I need to get him to eat something else. And the doctor looks at her and he goes, he's eating. He's eating plenty of food. What's the problem? And so she just kind of said okay at that point, and then he started eating more foods as he got older. So I know hot dogs and ice cream is not a great diet, but at least he's getting plenty of meat protein, right? So if your kids are eating enough muscle meat protein, like my boy could practically be a carnivore. He could just eat red meat. They're doing okay. Okay? So if your kid gets the measles, feed them meat and help their skin feel better. That's about it. Okay? So I will see you all next time. Have a great week. Hope you enjoyed that. I think we'll get to the infertility psyop the next episode. Bye now.